EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. As we move right along, all of a sudden the weeks are moving quick. We've already got into Wednesday here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Doing well, except for the snow locally.
Yeah,
I hope everybody's okay and able to dig out. Going from 75 to snow is not exciting.
Johnny Mac's in 75 weather down in NOLA, and he comes home to 4 or 5 inches that we got out there today. At least that's what I have here. I think it's like that. It looks like it could be 4 or 5 inches, maybe even a little bit more. So snowed in, Johnny Mac. John, you know what that means? You know what a snow day means in my world? A snow day means a good content day, Johnny Mac. So I'll be making a little extra content for the great people of JAKIB Nation today.
Well, that's good. I'm going to be out shoveling snow, trying to get multiple cars out. I think it was worse in South Jersey. Usually it's worse in your neck of the woods, west of the I-95 corridor. But I think we got it worse this time, which is, it's okay, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, good stuff there. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here this morning. All right, 3 days out after the Philadelphia Eagles became Super Bowl champions on Sunday night, their second in franchise history. I think many are reveling in that fact right now. The parade is now 2 days away, but we did have some breaking news that came down yesterday. All right, everybody, we had some breaking news, and Kellen Moore has officially been hired by the New Orleans Saints. Kellen is gone, Johnny Mac, and Jalen Hurts and co. will have another new offensive coordinator. Kellen's taking the Saints job, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, no surprise. Obviously, I kind of said it was the worst kept secret in New Orleans during the week, and Jeffrey Lurie essentially admitted it after the game. So, I think there were some people hoping out hope, but it wasn't going to happen. It's one of those things. That's what happens when you have success. The Eagles were prepared for it. They knew it was coming. It's no surprise this time. Not that it was a surprise last time. But they were a little behind the 8 ball from the standpoint. Last time was about Vic. That's all. And when they thought Jonathan was staying, they didn't. Obviously, Vic went to Miami, and Vic's not the kind of guy who's going to back out, as some coaches have done over the years. So this time, everybody knew it was coming. And they've been working behind the scenes, how he talked about before he left, looking for his job. A little bit of a dichotomy. You're worried about the right now, obviously, but you have to think about the future. So Eagles have a plan formulated. Ultimately, interesting. Jeremy Fowler reported yesterday that Kellen's going to be interested in Kevin Patullo. That's a little bit of a curveball, because I think the assumption was you just bring Doug Nussmeier, make him the offensive coordinator. But maybe Doug's better suited to just be a quarterback's coach and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting, but ultimately I think Kevin Patullo is going to be the next offensive coordinator of the Eagles. We'll see how it works out. Not 100% on that. But I think that's the way it's going to lean. They're going to interview people, and, it's just like Nick Sirianni. If you get into an interview and you wow somebody,
right,
you can change some minds. So, but remember, a lot of people are already accounted for. Bobby Slowick is a name because he just got a new gig, I believe, in Miami yesterday. A lot of people are off the table because the Eagles have gone so late.
Right.
And won the Super Bowl. So
and that probably increases the chances of a guy like Patullo getting the job, right? I mean, there's obviously the pool is not as big. So the comfort to move there is you go in-house and you don't worry about it. Now, how much do you think Patullo would alter or change the offense, or would he not at all? And would it be a little bit of the same with his own flair? Isn't he going to have his own?
Yeah, I wish. I got this question yesterday. I wish, and my answer was, and I got a lot of complaints about being too curmudgeonly yesterday, but my answer is don't fucking worry about scheme. What you were sold, and I'm not talking to you specifically, I'm talking to the fans. What you were sold is, we're going to evolve this thing. There's going to be a bunch of motion. There's going to be a bunch of creativity. And then it just went right back to what you saw with Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, because good coaches mold around the players they have. And that's why it looked very, very familiar and very different from what
What about
Kellen.
from like a what about from like a terminology standpoint? Because I think that's some of the stuff that delays
No,
stuff too.
that's legit.
It's
Terminology should be, similar.
yeah.
So yeah, you're not going to get drastic changes there.
Because I think that's one of the harder parts that goes unnoticed. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but learning the NFL terminology is no
Yeah, it's
joke. I mean,
probably I've always thought it's kind of silly that there's certain things obviously when you're talking about audibles you have to change them up because you don't want to be you don't want to alert people to what you're
right.
doing. But as far as a lot of people run the same stuff but call it different things, and I always thought that was kind of silly to make the players learn, because you're saying, all right, however many offensive players, you have to learn a new way. While I, as the coordinator, I'm one person, versus 35 people.
Right.
That never made a lot of sense to me, the way the NFL did that. So that part's a little bit legitimate, and that should stay similar at the bare minimum. So that could be a positive. But yeah, I mean, scheme-wise, you just saw it, guys. I mean, yeah, if you're hiring a scheme, you're doing it wrong. Good coaches adapt to their players, and Kellen deserves that. The lead bullet point to me of Kellen Moore this year getting a head coaching job was his ability to shift gears,
Right.
and
And
build
adapt.
around the players he had,
Right.
not the scheme. And that's where he kind of proved himself.
Well, the scheme is overrated. I do agree with you on that, but we've talked a lot about, I mean, the evolution of this offense, and, you always want to get better no matter how good you are. And I think even as Super Bowl champions are going to want to get better. Well, what does that look like potentially under Kevin Patullo? Is it the same? Does he now bear the burden of, being the guy that can improve the passing game? I mean, how do you view that part of the offense?
I
With
think
the
it's
new
going to
name again?
be, whether it's Kevin or somebody else, I think it's going to be very similar to last spring and summer, where you have all those stories coming out about them trying to do different things on offense. And that'll go through the summer and into the season. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, they'll fall back to the offensive line and the running back. I think it's going to be carbon copy of last season.
Right.
Of course, they're going to try to get better. Of course, they want to get better and more consistent. And for the people that don't think they don't have to get better, the best they played were the last 2 games of the season.
Yeah, which makes me upset that Kellen's leaving, because I look at this and I'm like, dang, it took longer than we wanted, but they did look the best in the last 2
And
games. And
let's
even
be
most
honest,
importantly, John, what do we talk about? If you take away Saquon Barkley, you want to be still want to be an elite offense. Well, the Chiefs took away Saquon Barkley, and they were an elite offense in the Super Bowl.
yeah.
You
It
know?
was, and let's be honest, it's about the passing game. The passing game elevated.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So for the people who say it doesn't matter, it matters. And they managed to work it out in the biggest moments possible. And they look great the last 2 games, really. Now, Saquon was great as well against Washington, but as you mentioned, that's the only thing Kansas City did, was stop Saquon Barkley. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. Now I still think the defense was the bigger part of the Super Bowl. The defense, man, I can't say enough things for the people that say I'm not positive. They're not listening to me talk about this defense, because they just the things that they were able to accomplish in this era is just unbelievable. The craziest, I'm trying to pull it up. The craziest, I didn't realize this until yesterday. The Chiefs against the Eagles, the only game in the NFL this season, week 1 through the Super Bowl, good teams versus crappy teams, not best versus best, not NFC champion versus AFC champion. It was the only game in the NFL this season where an offense did not run a single play in the opponent's territory in the first 9 drives. The only game this season. I've never seen a defense suffocate an offense like that. And I'm talking about when, Tommy DeVito's on the field.
Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. Say that stat one more time again for the great people.
The only game this season where an offense did not run a single play in the opponent's territory in the first 9 drives.
When did they cross midfield? It was third quarter, I think.
Third quarter. Right? Yeah, third quarter. The Xavier Worthy pass.
And by the way, you're not talking about it that Tommy DeVito. You're talking about Patrick Mahomes, who's
exactly
already first out trip to Canton. I mean,
think about how many shitty quarterbacks because of injuries are out there.
Right.
I'm picking on Tommy DeVito, but the Tommy DeVitos of the world.
Yeah, I be honest. Yeah, he's catching stray bullets, but I know what you mean.
I just unbelievable performance by that defense. And Jalen Carter didn't even play well.
No doubt about it. Here's a question for you on Kevin Patullo. All right, let's play a scenario out here right now. Kellen Moore offers Kevin Patullo the New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator job. Nick Sirianni offers Kevin Patullo the offensive coordinator job in Philly. He's taking Philly, right?
Yeah, he's taking Philly for what one major reason. He got very close with Kellen Moore very quick.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I read your article. It was a very, very well written article.
Every Friday, those two were like, thick as thieves at the start of practice. But he's very close to Nick Sirianni. I've been saying that for years that people finally picked up on it. He's his right-hand man. He's number 2 essentially to Nick. He handles, and that's part of the reason why, from Nick's standpoint, he might not want to lose him from that aspect. All the administrative stuff he helps with and all the kind of logistical stuff, which is the job of head coach that nobody talks about.
Right.
Like Kevin is well versed in that kind of stuff. And Nick might not want to lose that. But then you'd have to convince him, because it became pretty clear talking to Kevin down in New Orleans that he does want to be a coordinator and call plays. And that's the second part. He calls plays here. He'll call plays. He will not call plays in New Orleans. Kellen has already said he's going to call the plays. So I think that's the big difference. Plus the Eagles will probably pay him more. Just because they generally do. And other teams try to cut corners, and it's one of the reasons the Eagles are the Eagles.
Here we go, Johnny Mac. We already got news a couple days after the Super Bowl with Kellen Moore out the door. Who will be the replacement? We're 15 days away from the NFL Combine. We're 28 days away from NFL free agency, and we're 71 days away from the NFL draft. The offseason is underway, everybody. And we're 2 days out from a parade. All right, who's going down to the parade? I've already asked the great people. All right, I'd like to get a crew of JAKIB Nation together at the parade. I want to pick of me and all the people, or as many people as I can get down at the parade. If you're going to be down there, let me know. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, X. Make sure you follow me over there at Real Zander on X and at Zander Krause Show on Instagram. Appreciate all of you guys, and make sure you guys follow John as well at JF McMullen on Twitter. One of the best follows on Twitter. Johnny Mac, feels pretty good though to I wonder how much change will come. I think about Clint Hurt. I think about
the good news Parker. Is
is any of those guys on their way out the door, you think? I mean, those guys are position coaches. Clint Hurt has already been a DC in this league. If I'm Kellen Moore, I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh, that defensive line played pretty good this year. I'd consider him if I was Kellen.
Well, the good news is Schefter reported that Kellen's thinking about Brandon Staley as the defensive coordinator.
Which is a shitty hire. It's a buddy hire.
It is a shitty hire.
It's a buddy hire is what it is. Didn't he bring Kellen to LA?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. Similar to Kevin here. I mean, he developed quickly, and I imagine they're buddies. They didn't have a history before that, I don't believe. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that guy, not a fan. Now, doesn't mean you're not a good coordinator. We've seen a number of times bad head coaches be very good coordinators, but I don't think he was a great coordinator. He's another Rick guy. He's another copycat. And that's why Sean McVay brought him in originally to run Vic's scheme. And yeah, I don't think he does it that well. So, but and from that standpoint, not to say that Clint or Christian or even Bobby King could do it better. I have no idea. I have no idea if they'd run that scheme, but if that's the case, that's a break for the Eagles,
Right.
I would say.
Yeah, a couple super chats. I think the problem with where you are on defense is there's always problems whether you have stability at coordinators or not. Is Abe says promote Clint. Well, where are you going to promote him to? I mean, Vic Fangio is your defensive coordinator, so that's the problem. I mean, if you can't promote these guys, they're going to be
promote them to where? Yeah,
that's what I mean. Ethan checks in. What's up, Ethan? Good to see you, my man. He says, Myles Garrett, is it realistic? What would we have to give up? Love the content and watch you guys every day. Go Birds. Thank you, Ethan. Johnny Mac, your thoughts on the Myles Garrett comment? Because I do think they're going to be coming more and more.
Whole shitload you'd have to give up. 2 first-round picks. Remember, because you're so good, you're picking 32nd. You're projected to be really good next year, so your first-round picks aren't as valuable as other people's first-round picks. So it would start to me with 2 first-round picks, probably another day 2 pick and a player minimum, and all the money. Start there, and you might have to go higher. But a whole heck of a lot to get Myles Garrett.
Good stuff, Ethan. Appreciate it, man. I think I feel like Howie's going to make a move at edge. I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to lose Josh Sweat, all right, you're looking at Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith. No guarantee in the draft, and you're at the bottom of the draft. I think he's going to want a contributor for this.
Forget Bryce up. That Bryce is back.
Bryce Huffle-Schnufflegus is going to be the number 4. I mean, you're going to try and bring in a contributor. Is it a trade? Is it a free agent? Free agents are not that good. Not that good, Johnny Mac. You got Chase Young. You got Omenahu. You got Josh Sweat. Not many good free agent edge rushers. So what will Howie do? We will see about that. Brian Pumper checks in. One's aura is ridiculous. Sheesh, homie is so damn swaggy. And now Brian Pumper has become a Jalen.
Jalen was on the Tonight Show last night.
I saw
Saquon as well, and the offensive line got a cameo. So good for them.
Yeah,
they all got to be on that.
I saw some dude on Twitter ripping Jalen for not shotgunning a beer. I'm like, I hate to break it to you guys. If you think I would shotgun a beer in that moment on national TV, I would be like, hell no.
Well, that all stemmed from Saquon shotgunning a beer,
right,
which was pretty impressive in the celebration. Ironically, Saquon it lost in the shot. I don't know if you saw the shotgun. The camera was on
locker room shotgun. I saw that. Yeah,
the camera was on Saquon. And it was pretty.
But Nick Gates destroyed him.
Nick Gates destroyed him,
which is crazy to say because Saquon did that pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't shotgun beers like that, everybody. All right, that's not me.
Nick is a great guy. By the way, they're very close. Nick and Saquon played with the Giants together. They're very close. Nice. But yeah, I saw Saquon do that, and he got destroyed by Nick Gates. I'm like, how quickly it took him, like.
Right. 2.5 seconds, if that. Yeah. All right. We got a highly anticipated segment coming up next. All right. The greatness of Mike Gill left us for Thailand a couple weeks ago. His much anticipated return is coming up next here on Birds 365. We'll read one more super chat. I'll give you a quick live read and then we'll get to Mike Gill. Steph says, is Reed B a free agent? If so, are we going to sign the exciting White and Jalen and MF and Dog? Let's go. Reed is not a free agent. Correct?
No, he's not a free agent. So you're fine with Reed Blankenship. He'll be back. Had a very good season. One of the, I would say, more underrated players on the Eagles. Pretty much runs things on the back end for Vic Fangio. So no issues there. He's going to be back.
Yep, good stuff there. Reed will be back, and Jalen is a dog. All right, good stuff. here coming in, everybody. We appreciate all you guys being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Before I get to Mike Gill, let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go and check them out now. BetUS.com.pa. Promo code is YouTube150. Gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to BetUS.com.pa. That's BetUS.com.pa. And use that promo code YouTube150. All right. We'll be betting on basketball and baseball and all hockey and all the other sports because football is in the rear view mirror, everybody. As sad as that might be for some of you, it's certainly a sad thing.
We'll still get some bets with draft picks and all that kind of stuff.
That's true. That's true. There you go. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. We'll see. Maybe some USFL or something like that. Let's go to Mike Gill, who's joining us now here on Birds 365. All right. What's going on, Mike? Welcome into the show, man. How you doing? We missed you the last couple of weeks, brother. First, let me ask you, how was the greatness of Thailand? I think all the people need a little bit of an update. Many were speculating that the Lady Boys had captured you. I didn't want to give any merit to it, but you tell me, Mike.
Man, that was so long ago, I can't even hardly remember. It was a wild 2.5 weeks. Let's just say that.
Yeah, you've been on the move.
Yeah,
I was in
New Orleans. Yeah.
Right, I was in New Orleans all week last week. I saw Johnny Mac there. What day was that? Friday, I guess. I saw you at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of the line there. No, Thailand was unbelievable. The lady boy thing, I think, is a little overrated. Maybe I just didn't notice. I don't know. I mean, I was with my girlfriend, so I'm not like the issue. I'm not checking out like ladies or lady boys, but no, we did it all, man. We squeezed as much into 2.5 weeks. We were hanging with the elephants. We were drinking with the monkeys. We were on the beach. We were at the train market, the floating market. You name it in that country, in the South anyway, we did it. And I recommend highly for anybody out there who's ever thought about it. It was not a lot of Americans there, though. We were like the only two. We couldn't find anybody that was from the States.
A lot of English people go there, right?
Very many Europe, a lot of Australian, Russian, a lot of Russian over there.
Really? All right.
Yep. Apparently, the people from Russia who were like against what's going on over there, they're all fleeing the country. But there's not many countries that will take you if you're from Russia. So they're going to like one of the few places that is willing to accept you, and that is Phuket, Thailand. So awesome place, unbelievable. The fact that I was there is still like you have to like pinch yourself to say, I spent 2.5 weeks in Southeast Asia, which like for some of these people is like a fait accompli. It's like us going to Florida for people in Europe. It's like their place to go to get away for a little while. But an amazing culture. It was awesome.
Floating market sounds fun.
What's that?
The floating market.
The floating market was a sight to be seen, man. You're in like this little, what are they? It's like a little canal, and the canal probably only fits like 10 boats, and yet there's like 20 of them all trying to fit down this canal. And the women have like they might have ice cream or necklaces that they made or a bracelet, and you just pull up to them on a boat and buy it from them. And you're negotiating on the boat, They hand you a calculator, and they're like, well, what do you want to pay for it? And it's like, how about this? And it's like, eh.
I'm not. I don't think I'd be. What is the standard? What is the money standard there? I don't even know. It's
called the Thai baht.
Okay.
Which if you
I
remember,
wouldn't be good. I'd be spending way too many Thai bahts.
Well, we were laughing all week because it's like Monopoly money. Like some of the bills are skinny, some are big, like they don't match. But the baht is. Let's just say you can get a long way with the American dollar there. Like I have a picture of like our lunch bill, and it's like 140 baht, which is the equivalent of like $4. And we both had full meals, drinks, like, every single day. You can, like we were laughing, the Poison song, Unskinny Bop? The whole time I'm singing in my head, like, they're not charging enough baht. Like, we just kept buying everything because you're just like, how much is it, 140? 200? Okay. Like yes, our dollar goes a long way in Thailand.
Good to know, Mike.
Maybe I should go to Thailand. All right. You're going to sell me.
Yeah. Well, you hear like a lot of the you hear a lot of like military people like from the States. They go there, they never come back. That's where I was getting all the information. I did watch both Eagles games there, by the way. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I got up at 3 o'clock. I watched the games without problem, thanks to the viewers that emailed and messaged me that gave me the information. American football, not very big over there, I will say that, but a couple of places, so yeah, it was an awesome trip. And then New Orleans.
I went down that tangent, Mike. American football is not that popular in the rest of the world. People don't realize.
No, they had no clue what the heck it was. But that's like I went to London for the Phillies game. They had no clue there was a baseball game going on. This whole thing, like you're trying to put these games over there. It's more for Americans to take a trip than it is to educate these countries. Yeah. If you think Brazil,
there's certain sports like basketball is tremendously popular.
Yeah, basketball works absolutely. Yeah. We met a lot of Australians, and I can't. They were like, we were talking about the Eagles game. Oh, I was like, I have to wake up tomorrow at 3 o'clock. They're like, for what? I'm like, they didn't even know who Jordan Mailata was. Most of them. Like, I was like, oh, you know this guy Jordan Mailata? They were like, no, never heard of him.
Yeah, I think that surprises a lot of people. Just how, it's a very, very American sport, and people don't understand it. So it's very difficult. If you don't grow up with it, it's very difficult to understand.
It is,
football.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the places we went, it was a guy from Australia owned the bar, and he said he had the game on at 1 o'clock in the morning over there, and he said there was nobody there. So he was kind of disappointed. He was hoping, because it was like the NFC Championship game, or the AFC Championship game, I think was on at 6 in the morning. That's what it was. The AFC Championship game was on at 6 in the morning, so he opened up for it, and he said there was 2 people there.
All right. Let's get back.
I was at Radio Row last week and had a lot of interesting stuff. New Orleans, by the way, should host the Super Bowl every year. That's number one.
Yeah, I kind of agree from a city standpoint, but they got to do something about the Superdome. The Superdome's ridiculous.
Okay, I've never been there, so I can't comment on that, but how it's centrally located for the West media, the East media, everybody can get there. It's easy. The city's small enough that you can get around.
Yeah, you can walk most places.
You can walk most places. The food is unbelievable. The convention center is humongous. That party that they threw.
The convention center it's just.
That's the place. Yes, I've been to. This is like my 7th or 8th now. You've probably been to more than me, but of all of them, that was far and away the most convenient and the best one that I had been to.
It's definitely convenient from the walking aspect and everything being centrally located, everything being together. But the Superdome is so antiquated.
Yeah, I haven't been to, so I can't, I can't kind of. But I'll take your word for it. I mean, it's obviously been there for 50 years. So.
And then when you see SoFi or some of the newer stadiums, it's just like, oh man,
SoFi. I mean, that's rare.
Hey, guess what?
Terrifying.
They had better turf than that field in Phoenix did.
Well, that's true, and that obviously came up because that one we were talking about when he came on. To me, one of the most dominating performances I've ever seen defensively.
Yeah.
I threw that stat out, and I just found out this yesterday, so I'll throw it out to you. It was the first NFL game all season, Mike. Think about that. Think about all the bad teams, all the bad quarterbacks. The first NFL game this season where an offense did not run a single play in the opponent's territory for the first 9 drives.
It was an absolute, domination up front. I mean, that's where the game, we had talked all week, we had different guys on the show breaking it down. And one of the questions I asked is, where is there a matchup where the Eagles have such an advantage that it could result in the outcome of the game? And everybody almost answered Caliendo is the weak spot, and moving Tooney to left tackle would be a problem. And the 2 guys that wrecked the game were Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. And I kept commenting during the week last week, which was because Drew Rosenhaus was behind me all week last week. So I kept saying, look, Josh Sweat just switched to this guy right here. This is the game where you make more money. And the Eagles' 3 free agents said, I have a chance to make more money, and I'm going to take advantage of it. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Zach Bond all had maybe their best. I mean, I know Bonds had better statistical days, but the impact that he had with that interception.
They all did splash plays, and they all got noticed on the biggest stage. And there's a lot of dumb teams that'll just pay you because you played well in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And like, you know, the Caliendo thing was a storyline for a lot of people that we had on the show, which was, well, look, that's where you need to go. And some people kept wondering, would the Eagles flip Jalen Carter over him to try to get him some snaps there? I don't know that ever happened because Carter really didn't have a big significant. Like if I said Jalen Carter was essentially silent in the game and you dominated them to that level, like you'd be like, no way.
You can make an argument that was Jalen Carter's worst game of the season. You can make an argument that was Saquon Barkley's least productive game of the season.
Yeah.
If I told you that going in, you'd say, oh, the Eagles are in trouble. And they were not only in trouble, they destroyed them.
Absolutely destroyed them. And listen, they destroyed them up front. And then, you know, you take a look at what they did in the secondary too. I mean, they dusted off Avonte Maddox. I mean, it wasn't a huge play, but it's like the last gasp of air that you had before like you're done. And Avonte Maddox comes in and breaks down a fourth down pass, and you're thinking, where did he come from? The Eagles were just a step ahead. It's unbelievable to say this. As much criticism that Nick Sirianni unjustly gets throughout the course of the year, his team was not only the more prepared team, it was significantly more prepared than Andy Reid's team. Andy Reid's team looked like they just kind of woke up and showed up and said, hey, we're better than you. We're going to show up and play, and just had no preparation all week long. They had no answers for anything the Eagles threw at them on Sunday. You know, I contest, everybody's like, well, this is the best Eagles team of all time. No arguments there. They're way at the top of that conversation. This has to be one of the most dominant performances for a Super Bowl champion. So where does that put them in the pantheon of Super Bowl winning teams?
It's got to be up there.
Yeah, it's right up there. I always think about 55-10, the Montana 49ers, and then Seattle just completely obliterated.
Yeah, when you can remember the year or the score and like the 85 Bears, total domination. The 86 Giants, total domination. You know, those type of teams. I think 20 years from now, you're going to look back and say that 24 Eagles team was as dominant as any Super Bowl champion in history.
Yeah, and if you look at the couple losses, Mike, and I'm going to go ask you to recap. We've talked about this team every single week, and here we are at the end of it now, and they're Super Bowl champions. But you look at the three losses they had this year. I mean, the Falcons, Saquon Barkley, tough drop. I don't like to play revisionist history. I don't like to play coulda, woulda, shoulda, but that's the truth. You're one of your best players has a drop. You look at the Buccaneers game, easily the worst game of the year, but you were also without A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and an offensive lineman in that game. I want to say it was
Lane.
Lane. Well done, John. Yeah, Lane. And then the Commanders game, you lost. Jalen Hurts was out the whole game. So you look back in hindsight right now, and you're like, geez, this team only lost really one game, and they were missing some key guys in that game. All the three games, that there was obviously issues in all of them. So it's really been a dominant year.
And when you look back, right, a dominant year, when you look back and I talk about the most dominant Super Bowl performances, you know, some of those dominant performances that we've talked about, you know, the Ravens beat a Kerry Collins-led Giants team. Hardly a memorable opponent. The Eagles beat a team with the best coach-quarterback combination potentially when it's all said and done in history. They were 15-2. They had back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They were the favorite in this game, and you dismantled that team. So you look at some of the dominant performances, you know, 55-10, you mentioned that Bengals. I mean, you look back at some of those AFC teams, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Bills. They were good, solid AFC teams, but not like all-time greats that you this is an all-time great team that's going for a three-peat that you absolutely dismantled on Sunday. And that's something that I think needs to be stressed about how dominant this team was. And the only thing about it is it's interesting. I don't even know that they played their best game, right? Barkley gets bottled up. You mentioned
Carter.
They
did defensively.
Well, as a unit defensively, right. But you didn't get your best from your best player. I mean, imagine if he gets involved in the day and he's having a party and this thing gets really ugly. You know, one of the things you take a look at with this team was all year long, they didn't have dominating performances like this. They kept leaving questions out there, like the passing game and what about the pass rush? That all got answered in the two biggest games of the year. So Here's what I say for the Eagles fans, too, that's kind of tough to deal with. You might have just watched the greatest Eagles season of all time. I don't know that you're ever going to top that season. What do you do to top that? So
You better
next year, the year after, are you going to go 16-1? Are you going to go 15-2? Like, that's going to be a tough season to ever top. And you know how Eagles fans are just never happy. You're never going to be happier than you were.
I think there's a sense of I think there's got to be a sense moving forward of, you don't worry as much about how the regular season looks. You're now focused on what.
Oh boy, now we're getting into NBA territory, John. Now it's NBA territory.
I'm not saying that. I think look at the Chiefs.
Bobby.
Everybody around the league talked about how the Chiefs didn't look that good all year long. They're 17-1. They won all their games, and everybody in the Chiefs land's like, "Oh, we're going to win in the playoffs." They win in the playoffs every year. I think you have a team, Mike, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm eagle-colored glasses. I look at this team. I see Jalen Carter. I see Nolan Smith. I see young defensive backs that are contributing already in year one, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship coming back. You go to the offensive side. Your average age on offense is 26, 27 years old with all of your playmakers there. I don't think it's crazy to say this team is in the best position in the NFL to try and continue this level. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to. Every season has its own personality, injuries, all of those things. I understand that. But if you're another team in the NFC, you're looking at the Eagles like that's the gold standard. How do we build our team?
We got a gold standard quote.
You're not wrong. Listen, I said this the other day. Since Andy Reid got hired in 98, 99?
99.
25 years, you have had expectations, save for maybe the first two seasons. You've had playoff / Super Bowl aspirations. I think the Eagles have had 5 losing seasons in 25 years. Think about that. This is a franchise that has given us 25 years of ultra-competitive football, 2 Super Bowls, and then a couple Super Bowl appearances. So, yeah, it's not going to change, but this team, the things that you worry about, Mitchell, DeJean, Jalen Carter, it's a lot of young guys. How do they handle the success, okay? Well, you got all those Georgia guys. They had success in college, and they now have success in the pros. So you don't think that they're going to just let their guard down. But guys who win a Super Bowl that first year, can they get back up to that level? So there's a couple things, obviously they have free agent questions, but when you have Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie running the team, their standard is this is where we need to get to. And if you can't do it, we'll switch the roster over and get people that can do it. The organization has given Eagles fans 25 years worth of Super Bowl level teams. They don't always win it. They don't always get there. But you go into every season believing. This isn't Cleveland. This is in Cincinnati. It's not the Raiders. You don't hope you're going to make the playoffs. No, you hope you're going to win the Super Bowl. And I think that's what this team has kind of created. Now they jump to the next level, I think, of tiers of franchises.
Yep.
They're this team here that's kind of like in their own little box. You got Patriots for that run. The Chiefs kind of jumped up there. Then you have the old school historic teams like Pittsburgh and Dallas that always have, thoughts. Yeah. And now you might be in that next tier where you're with those teams that are looked at differently nationally.
Golden era is coming, Mike. Golden era is coming.
Well, I got to tell you, I had 2 flights home, 90% Eagles fans on both of them. They're already talking about Santa Clara next year already. So that's it. It's not bad to have good expectations. In fact, from an organizational standpoint, I think it's a very good thing to have higher expectations. Hold yourself up to a significant standard. I think the Eagles do. I think that's a positive. It's not always a positive with the fan base because they will shit on you quickly if you don't.
Well, they won the Super Bowl in 2017. They got booed the first drive the next year. It's always. I love what Jalen said the other day. It's always the beginning until the end, and that's it. We mock and laugh at the Cowboys fans who have won all these Super Bowls.
Yeah, Dak's saying they're close yesterday. He's getting mocked for that.
Well, I'm talking about for years. The Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in over 30 years. So we always laugh and kind of mock the Cowboys fans about how they always go back to these Super Bowls from the 70s and the early 90s. Don't be that team that looks back. Keep looking forward. That's what Jalen's saying. That Super Bowl, celebrate it for the week. The parade comes, and then it's on to the next one, because that one is, okay, we've already accomplished it. Because they won a Super Bowl on Sunday night. On Tuesday, the team was already different from the team that won on Sunday night when Kellen Moore walked out the door.
Yeah.
So your team is already different than the one that won that Super Bowl on Sunday.
What a great thing to hear from Dak Prescott, though, that he's in such delusion land. He's 2-5 in the playoff. He's been a 9-year NFL starter. He had 2 number 1 overall offenses, and he has 2 playoff wins. And Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls and is 6-3 in the postseason. I mean, is the Cowboys Super Bowl beating the Eagles once a year? I don't know. That's what it sounded like when I heard that.
And now,
thank you very much, Dak. Doesn't sound like you guys are focused on the right things.
And now you enter Washington into the mix. They've been down rotten for 20 years, save for a random season here and a random season there. I think that Washington team becomes your adversary now, where they are in the mix. So now you've got Dallas going after Philly, but also Washington. And if the Giants can find a quarterback somewhere in the line, you might get an AFC North type of situation where all 3 of the 4 teams kind of think they're playoffs. I think Cleveland, they made the playoffs last year. They just completely bottomed out. So all 4 teams in that division last year thought they had playoff rosters. So the NFC East is seemingly, if Dallas had a lot of injury issues last year. We all know that. And they still were competitive. They had a couple weeks where they were a complete disaster. But once they kind of got back on the track, they played some competitive football down the stretch.
My thing is, I don't want to get on the Dak Prescott tangent, but what do fans expect him to say? Oh no, we're not even close to the. I mean,
yeah,
I don't understand the mentality. Like, I remember when Alshon got here in 2017, and he told us all, it was I think it was between the Eagles and the Vikings to sign him, and he said he came here to win a Super Bowl. He thought they were close to the Super Bowl, and we looked at him like, what? What are you talking about? They're coming off, Doug almost got fired, one and done. They're coming off not the greatest season. Carson Wentz, his first season as a starter. And all of a sudden, they win the Super Bowl. And you're looking at Alshon, and he's spiking the football afterwards, deservedly so. None of us saw that coming. I don't even know if he saw it coming. But it's just something you say as a player.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you see
the
the article?
The problem is to identify. It doesn't sound like they think there's any problem there.
Bro, he was answering a question in some weird.
Well, to be fair, I think those guys, I think the Dallas guys look at their season and say, if Dak's not hurt, if this guy's not hurt, Parsons got hurt, they had some injuries on defense. Like, if we're healthy, we went, would they go 7-10 or I don't remember what their record.
Yeah, if they're healthy and things went right, they think they're a good team.
They think they're in the mix.
The good news for Eagles fans is the organization is a problem, and Jerry Jones is a problem.
But within 9 years, it's not just 1 year. 9 years.
But when you criticize a player for saying, I think we're close, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, because I don't want a player that doesn't think that way.
Yeah, and listen, why Dallas has had no playoff success. They've had 13-3 teams. I mean, this is a team that has just failed in the playoffs. Do we think they're just or is there what is I think Jalen is, just because you have it doesn't mean you can't, hey, can Dallas, and look, I don't want to go down the Dallas path, but I think if they get healthy, now I don't know what the coaching situation is going to be like. Schottenheimer's never been a coach before. Is that an upgrade for them? Do they take a step back there?
Well, that's positive. Like I said, the organization's an abject disaster.
Yeah. But did you see the article? I think Front Office Sports put it out, and they said, the Eagles have all this dead money and deferred. They're kicking.
Yeah,
the can
Jake Rosenberg was laughing.
And
at
Jake
that.
Rosenberg is, but like that's the thing is,
Yes.
Philadelphia, they have a lot of key decisions to make here with Williams and Sweat and Bond, those 3, and then you've got Becton. I know a lot of people just feel like you take Becton out and you put Steen into that spot, and then you're kind of good. But Steen got Rochambeau'd for a couple plays on Sunday night. If you watch when Becton went out,
Becton went out that very first play, Mike. He got.
Although I will say Steen played pretty well he played a lot here and there throughout games, and you never knew that he came in. So
Right.
Becton, does a team throw money at him to play tackle maybe, or overpay him to play guard? I've already seen Jacksonville could be interested there. They need guard help there. But, okay, if you lose that quartet of players, which I don't know that you lose all four, do you take a step back? Do you already take that step back? You've got to get another offensive coordinator. Well, how does that change your offense? So it moves quick, man. 71 days until the draft, free agency starts in a couple of weeks here. It moves quick. You're on to the next one.
Yeah, it moves very quickly, and I'm happy with that. To be honest, that's one of the positives of going late into a season. Because
and the Phillies report today. I mean, what we do, you got the Eagles tapping off and saying "tag, you're it" to the Phillies pitchers and catchers today. So that's a.
When are you going down, by the way?
We are slated to go March 19th to the 24th.
All right. And how much snow did you get?
We have a lot of snow. We have a lot of snow. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get to the office right now.
Yeah, it's bad. Typically, we get a little bit of a better hit, but it was worse on the eastern side of the I-95.
Well, mind you, I watched the Super Bowl in Clearwater. I was in the pool on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. You were doing, yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Well, it was 75, 80 in New Orleans all week.
I know, but I'm saying I was in Thailand where it was 90. I was in New Orleans where it was like 80. And then I went to Tampa where it was like 80. And now I come home and there's snow all over the place. I was like, I'm out on this one. But I'm looking forward to seeing which guys, number one, would you prioritize, and which one will Howie prioritize, if any?
I think your point about Milton and Josh specifically playing well on the Super Bowl stage, boy, they made a lot of money.
Who was the guy from Seattle, Malcolm Smith? Didn't he win like a Super Bowl MVP?
I mean, some of those old Cowboys, I always remember Dixon Edwards getting a big deal, and Alvin Harper. And
Larry
Brown getting a big deal. And they were just nice complimentary players, paid at the time like superstars, and they all kind of faltered.
Yeah.
Now, I think Milton's a really good player. There's a guy who I think bet on himself, and he's going to win, man. He's going to be a $20 million a year player.
Yeah, and that's the for people that remember that night, that's where Tom Donahue kind of gave Howie Roseman a cold shoulder and was like, that's not the guy that you should have taken. Now, McNeil turned out to be a pretty good player.
Really good. I think both of them won there.
Yeah. But they both fit where they are.
Milton? $20 million has got to be heavy for Milton.
I think he's going to make $20 million.
Well, what about Bond? I mean,
Bond's who I want. Mike, that's
Bond is going to be. You have to understand the position. The position counts. Like, teams are willing to pay defensive tackles. Alim McNeil's at 23, 24.
Yeah, that's.
You're
crazy.
telling me Milton Williams is not going to get to 20 after that performance?
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it feels crazy that Milton's going to get paid.
My question is, are teams cognizant enough to know that Bond was as good as he was because he played here, or they say if he comes here, he could be as good as that?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, he's going to be in the 15 range because of the position. It's
you paying 15 for a linebacker?
I am but Mike, hear me out. You got Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis on the offensive line or on the defensive line. You got your safeties locked up in Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You have two young rookie contributing corners in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. You have every layer of the defense. Assuming your goal is to repeat what you did this year, knowing that's a lofty, tough goal to accomplish. The only area of that defense, remember, with the Nakobe Dean injury, I think it changes things too. Don't you want some stability there? I mean, is it coincidence that the first year we get an all-pro linebacker, we have the best defense in football by a wide margin?
When they went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, T.J. Edwards wasn't an all-pro, but he was a Pro Bowl level guy, and it showed you what the defense was. Now, Oren Burks played pretty well. He's back next year. Do they know in the back of their minds, we really like Jeremiah Trotter. Nakobe Dean will be back. We can go with some sort of mix there. Save that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Bond, you don't want to see leave. I'm not advocating for that. But as John mentioned, at some point, the price tag is too much. where you have other areas. You got to find another edge rusher now because I'm sure Josh Sweat's probably going to leave. If you lose Milton Williams, okay, you got Moro Ojomo, Thomas Booker. Do they feel comfortable enough with those two guys where they don't have to re-put money into that position and that spot? That maybe that opens up the pocketbook a little bit more for Bond. Gainwell, he's a free agent. They have Shipley, so they probably think that's okay. So it's all like a domino effect of what you have.
I think the top 4 is what you're talking about, which to me is Zach Bond, and I wrote about this on SI. I ranked Zach Bond
your article.
1, Milton number 2, Sweat number 3, and then Becton number 4. To me, you're keeping Bond, and you want to keep Milton. I think Sweat is going to leave, and I think Mackay is sort of like there's so many interesting things about Mackay. Does somebody want to make him a left tackle again? If they do, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
But he's got that knee, and
they might be screwed too.
Degenerative, and some people might not want to pay him because of the health concerns. So that might help you. I was just looking at, I'll tell you this. Spotrac does what they do with market value. They got Zach Bond's market value at 2 years, $20 million. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
That ain't true.
What did TJ Edwards get to go to Chicago? Do you remember?
He got like 7-8 million.
All right, so then he would be higher than that.
Zach Bond's going to be way more than that. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But my point is, stupid teams though, and stupid organizations cost great organizations because somebody's going to come in and say, "I'll give you 20 million, Zach," and Howie's going to be like, "Well, what the fuck? I'm not."
Well, that's my point though. Is 7 million they thought was too much for Edwards. Now I know you're saying, well, Bond was better than Edwards, but at the time, Edwards had been clearly better than anything they had, and they thought 7 to 8 was too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they have
Howie's already verbalized that he knows he needs to keep him.
Yeah, I agree.
And Lynn McNeil got 4 years, $97 million, 24.25 a year. And I'm telling you, I don't think Milton's going to get that. But if he doesn't hit 20, I would be shocked. Yeah,
Milton Williams, not to mention, very rarely do you see a guy get to free agency in his mid-20s. He's in that
everything's
spot
there.
Right,
everything's there.
Yeah, you're not getting the guy on his second contract free agent. He's on his rookie deal, and he's ready to make some money here right now. And he had the game of his life when he had the opportunity to make that money. Milton Williams is lined up to get an overpay. And listen, Milton Williams, he's a guy that I've loved. Like every year, I'm like, if he gets more snaps, 1 year he had 8 sacks. And you're like, if he gets more snaps, can he get to 12? And they just never really used him like where he's able to get his profile up. But he was excellent this year. And then you saw him as the season went on. And then, of course, the Super Bowl. He's just a freak, man. And we heard her. Remember, he was the guy at the combine who had numbers comparable to Aaron Donald. They were like, the only other guy who's had numbers like this kid is Aaron Donald, and he just had played at a small school. He was a little undersized, like arm. This guy is a guy who can really make a lot of money. He'll be the one guy that I think that I don't know if it's overpay or what, but he'll get paid probably the most out of those 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that, as I said, that's a position the NFL is willing to pay.
See, that's a gamble too, though. We can acknowledge that, right? I mean, Milton Williams has been great as a rotational piece.
Oh, it's definitely a gamble.
Next to an all-pro defensive tackle. I mean,
and you know what
are
happens
you confident
here too?
in Milton Williams being your starting DT at 50, 60, 70 snaps a game for 22? Well, Javon Hargrave got 20 million. He had a double-digit sack season. All right, Milton Williams was great this year. I like him a lot. I think he's been a great player for a third round pick.
Me, Zach. I don't. But I agree with you from the standpoint. Again, stupid organization.
That's the thing. You get a team that generally is not good, and they're saying we can get this guy. He can help us become good.
Right.
You get Jacksonville, or you get Vegas, or you get one of those teams that are just constantly grabbing. Then they overpay, and you're stuck in a horrible situation. And you're like, Milton Williams got paid $20 million, and what happened to him? You hope that doesn't happen to the kid, but hey, money talks, man. What did Josh Sweat right after the game?
This is, as Mike pointed out, this is exactly the guy you want to pay in free agency. Coming off the rookie deal, still young, hitting his stride, Hasn't played a lot early in his career, so there's not a lot of wear off the tire. Now he's playing a lot, playing at a really high level. Exactly. I mean, he is the definition of what you want in free agency. The smart team should be lined up for Milton Williams, and I think the Eagles are lined up. If I pay Milton Williams $24 million a year, I don't even worry about it. I go to sleep. I don't even worry about it. This is exactly the guy you want to reward. Everybody else I have concerns over.
So the question would be, John, Zander, is there a way that Howie can bring back these guys and pay them what they want?
I think there's two. You can get two tops. Becton is interesting because
Becton might get pushed down a little bit.
Becton seems to really like it here. I'm not saying these guys are going to make decisions and shave off millions of dollars of earnings to play here, but you've seen great organizations in the past have players want to play there. You're getting that vibe from some of these guys right now. Does Becton say, I was a first-round pick. I'm kind of set for life. I'd rather be in Philly with Jeff Stoutland, with this offensive line. I'll take a couple-year deal at $12, $14 million. I don't know. Maybe.
You don't see that often where a guy says, I like where I'm at. I'm cool making $5 to $7 million less. It's an interesting mindset.
It's not going to happen.
Right. It's an interesting mindset that none of us are really in that position where, you're offered, I guess.
We had, and I want to get into Kellen Moore with you. We had that discussion. It's like, whether you really want to go to a bad organization to be a head coach when you can stay here and win another Super Bowl. Yeah, you do. I mean, nobody's staying here.
Well, that's where we can't relate. If somebody says to me, hey, you could make, I don't know, an extra. What would be the equivalent? Here, you can make an extra, $17,000, but you got to move to, I don't want to disparage any town in America.
We're in a different bracket here, Mike.
That's what I'm saying. I'm putting it into our terms. Here's an extra $17,000 to go here. Like for them, an extra $7 million, but I got to move to Cincinnati or I got to go to wherever. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, and maybe this is why I don't make enough money. I don't want to go someplace that I don't want to be just because I'm making more money.
Now, if you give me an extra $7 million, I'll go to Jonesboro, Arkansas. And I don't want to.
But if you were already making $5 million, do you really need?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I hate doing this because I don't like to count pot. You never know what somebody's got in life, what they're dealing with, what their family situation. You don't know any of those things. So I try not to get into.
Like maybe you really like your neighbor. Maybe he takes your trash out for you while you're gone.
Somebody pointed out in the chat, Devontae Smith took a pay cut. I mean, he didn't have to sign that contract.
He didn't.
He signed it early.
AJ did
for way under market value.
He didn't take a pay cut. What he did was he didn't maximize his earning potential. Now, there's plenty of players that do that. But I think what people don't understand, when Jalen Hurts or Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown or Landon Dickerson sign their contracts, they're at the top of the list.
Right.
Howie just knows the list is going way up. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, in a year or two, it'll look really good, and it does. That's the difference.
Two of the top 10 highest paid players on this team: James Bradbury, number 7, or Bryce Huff, number 7, and James Bradbury, number 10. They were two of the highest paid players on this team.
Boy, that Huff guy. I'm thinking Josh Sweat gets a Huff contract. What do you think? 3 years, $51 million. I think that's right.
He's gonna get 15, somewhere in that range, maybe even more. That's
why I said Huff. I think 17, 18 million is gonna be what he gets.
Yeah, he's now. There's some. He's a little bit older. Like he's not like Milton. He's got the knee thing, so that'll concern some people. Even though he's played pretty consistently, that should be. I know that upsets Josh, to be honest, but NFL teams are going to weigh it, so he probably deserves more just from the production standpoint. But I think that pushes him down a little bit. But Jake Rosenberg was not. Jake's kind of laughing at people. That front office sports thing is like, the Eagles are hoping 31 other teams think that way because in a copycat league, nobody copies the right things. and that's spending money, kicking the can down the road from a cap standpoint, spending money because the cap's going up. During another pandemic or something like that, the cap's going to continue to
One
go
of my favorite conversations last week was with Thomas Dimitrov. What stories he had about dealing with Howie. I mean, have you ever talked to Thomas?
Yeah. Thomas was going to do Birds 365 once, and when Jody was on, and he had all these restrictions, and we're like, come on, dude.
Really?
He had all these restrictions because he didn't want to talk about Howie. He's good friends with Howie.
Yeah, well,
he didn't want
he emptied the bag to us the other day. It was
did he?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe stories that he's told before, but just like dealing with Howie, and he's like, listen, the guy would call, and I'm like, Howie, I'm not giving you a 2. Stop asking. He's like, he's known around the league for starting every phone call.
Yeah, he's always asking for a 2.
He said, he was talking about how, you ever see the movie Draft Day where they're like, who's that new guy in Jacksonville? Get him on the phone. And he's like, that's Roseman. He knows the young guys that'll cave. Like he's just so good at like having the pulse on that.
Well, Adam Peters did that this year. That when he was like, "Come on, Howie."
Yeah.
Well, and Adam did a good
trade. We've all seen the trade residual of the Carson Wentz deal. What the Eagles have gotten for Wentz, like it's almost like somebody should have said, "All right, this doesn't seem fair." You got AJ Brown.
Well, that's where Howie's great. Howie's great with contingencies because he knows no matter what, not everything's going to work out. So he's really good with the pivot. And other people try to salvage and this and that. Howie's really good with the pivot and going in different directions. Because one of the things about the Jalen Hurts pick, we talk about it all the time on this show. That was not the plan. The plan was he was going to be Carson's backup. Maybe he got to play in the preseason.
John, that was still a bold draft pick, dude. A second round pick. This isn't a 6th round pick as a cost-effective backup. Howie had to have balls to make that pick.
Well, what did Jeffrey say after the Super Bowl? We had to have him. Yeah. We had to have Jalen.
Are you telling me on a 2nd round pick when you just paid your starting? If Howie went into this draft and drafted a quarterback in the 2nd round, you're telling me that wouldn't be bold? Do
you understand that created the problems that created?
Okay.
Like there's so much revision. Yeah, it was a bold move from the standpoint of you drafted a quarterback and it pissed off the quarterback that you wanted to pay and you did.
You weeded out a guy who's soft.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. That's revision.
Bullshit. We don't have a Super Bowl today if he doesn't make that draft pick.
Oh my God. You weeded out. People talk themselves into fucking pretzels. I'm telling you what the plan was. The plan was to have a cost-effective backup and then spin them off for something down the line. That was the fucking plan. That was the plan. Now, people can lie to themselves all they want. Where Howie deserves credit is when the plan went off kilter because they didn't think about the impact it would have on a goofball who was weak-minded. That I agree with. Yeah. They didn't think about that. Then they pivoted and made the best of a bad situation. Well, that's where he deserves credit. Going all the way back to the original, that's complete bullshit.
Well, and I remember that was pick 53. The next day, I remember I'm on the air. Hunter Brody did the show with me at the time, and we were battling back and forth. And I had explained to him, I said, listen, the Eagles value the backup quarterback more than they do a starting safety. They just won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, so they value that spot. You also have the mindset of, listen, there are other teams. Green Bay does this all the time. We have a quarterback. We're maybe not sure. We have a guy that can sit on the bench for 3 years. I'm not saying that was their mindset, but it's not crazy. Atlanta just drafted a quarterback in the 1st round after they signed a guy. Teams value the backup quarterback and having quarterbacks at their disposal more than a safety or a linebacker.
Well, the Eagles value the back, and that's one of the reasons why. There's a bunch of reasons. Jeffrey Lurie loved the player. They had a Russell Wilson vibe. They didn't want to wait to the 3rd round, risk losing him again. They always talk about Russell Wilson. There's a bunch of stuff that went into it, and I don't care. I tell this story all the time, and people think it's bullshit, and people think it's bull. I told the McCaffrey story for years. Then it comes out and everybody knows it now. I'm telling you the story. I'm telling you what the fucking plan was. I'm not pulling it out of the air.
Yeah, but if you just said they thought he was Russell Wilson and they didn't want to pass on him, they obviously thought higher of him than
they thought very highly of him. You think very highly of any second round pick. But I'm telling you what the fucking plan was.
Right,
the plan was for him to be a cost-effective backup to Carson Wentz, who they thought was a star quarterback. And we all thought was a star quarterback. It was a star quarterback for a very short amount of time. It created waves that shouldn't have been created if Carson was a little bit more thick.
How do you feel if you're Carson Wentz? You got usurped by Foles and had to watch that Super Bowl, and now you're standing on the other sideline by the guy who took your job as they win that Super Bowl. I contend the Eagles just need to bring Wentz back as the backup, so he's always on the sideline watching. You'll always win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know why it bothers me. I mean, there's plenty of good with Howie Roseman. I'm the fucking guy, Mike. You and I are probably the only guys. We used to get shit on constantly.
Yes. I took a lot of heat for my Roseman takes.
Yes.
There was a time where
Mike, you were the first person on this show calling him a top 5 GM years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Listen, I have always been a Roseman fan, even when he took Rager over Jefferson. Yeah, it was a total mistake. But I said, Roseman, I've been doing the show for too long. He was the most hated figure in Philadelphia sports for a time, and there wasn't a number 2. He was that despised by people, and the number 2 guy wasn't close. Those people still won't come out and say, man, was I wrong. There are still people who kind of quietly think this team was great and don't want to give him the credit. For years, when they won that first Super Bowl, it was Joe Douglas that put that team together. It wasn't Howie. It was Joe Douglas. Well, now Joe Douglas is out looking for another job, and the Eagles have won another Super Bowl.
Yeah. You and I were ground floor, Mike Gill.
I said, listen, because in my mind, listen, the draft is a 50-50 proposition. You're going to make mistakes. Was that a glaring mistake? Absolutely. Did they make other bad mistakes? Absolutely. But 50-50 everywhere around the league. You took this guy, you could have took that guy. That happens. But I need my guy to make smart, calculated decisions in cap and in contracts. And all of that stuff is more important. Now, the draft is obviously important, but that's not an exact science. There's nobody that I could bring in here that's going to nail the draft year in and year out. I can't guarantee that. What I can guarantee is that Roseman's going to win the trade. He's going to win the contract. He's going to give the right deal. He's going to approach you at the right time. And those are where a team like Dallas, who drafts better, they're a very good drafting team. They just don't know when to approach. They don't know how to sign these guys. They don't know when to extend them. They don't know how much money to give them. They don't know how to manipulate the cap. Dallas has the talent. They don't have the organizational structure. Philadelphia, yes, they missed in the draft at times. He learned. And that's what I like about Jeffrey Lurie. He allowed Roseman to make mistakes and not be afraid to learn from them. Some of these guys get blown out the door because they make one mistake.
And it's like,
all the time. Come on.
Yeah. The patience is a big part of it. Mike Gill show, make sure you follow Mike on.
Real quick, you mentioned Kellen Moore before. We didn't really get to him, but is Jeff Stoutland a possibility?
No. Offensive coordinator? No.
Because do you think Patullo goes to New Orleans or he stays here?
I think he stays here. I think he's going to be the offensive coordinator. Remember, if he stays here, he gets to call plays. If he goes to New Orleans, he doesn't get to call plays. But I think that's a big difference. But it's interesting the politics of that because Kellen became very close with him when he was here. Nick is tremendously close with him for years and years and years. And he wants to be a coordinator. So it's going to be interesting. He's got a big job here. I don't think people realize how big his job is as the associate head coach. He's been Nick's right-hand man for years since he got here. And maybe Nick wants to keep him in that position, but I think that's going to be very difficult to do. Now that you have somebody looking at him,
is it an outside the box thing or, the names, Frank Reich? I've had people text into my show, bring Doug back. I can't imagine Doug wants to come back and be the coordinator at a spot where he's got a statue. Although, Robert Saleh put his tail between his legs and went back to San Francisco. Vance Joseph was the head coach in Denver and went back there to be a coordinator.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it has happened. But Doug won a Super Bowl, the first one, and has a statue to come back as a. And by the way, he's not a great play caller either. Frank Reich's name, Josh McCown's name is brought up to me. Mike McCoy worked with Nick in San Diego. So there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple names. There's a couple names that have been thrown my way by.
Yeah, I like Josh McCown. I've advocated. I thought the Eagles should have hired Josh McCown right off the field back, and they were thinking about it.
Well, he interviewed for the Texans job twice and the Jets job a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a head coach in this league.
Well, do you want to get a guy who? Do you want to go down the road of like the Vic Fangio and get a guy who's like, hey, I'm a coordinator, I know it, or do you want to get a young guy who's going to be out the door again?
That's what Mike, I've been saying that all week.
Well, then, I don't like the dichotomy of, Nick considers Frank to be his mentor. I don't like the dichotomy of hiring your mentor to be your employee.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it wouldn't work.
No.
I mean, we thought the setup this year didn't work, and they're Super Bowl champions, so.
Well, I that's not true, because I didn't think the setup would work if they truly cut the legs off Nick Sirianni. I thought that was the problem. They didn't cut the legs off Nick Sirianni. That's why the setup worked. The presumption was that Nick had power taken away. Nick didn't hire Kellen Moore. All this, Nick wouldn't have the power as the head coach, and he would have to defer to Kellen Moore. That type of setup would not have worked. The Eagles, to Jeffrey Lurie's credit, did not do that. So, and it did work.
Now, Frank Reich is a popular name, but there was a lot of confusion. Did he call plays? Did Doug call plays? And then when he left, and then the next year, people were like, Frank, it was all Frank. So that would be an interesting thing with Frank.
Yeah. Well, it's always funny because you point out, you mentioned Doug. Like, Frank didn't call plays here. I mean.
Right. Then he went to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And then he went to Carolina, and neither worked out very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh McCown was his quarterback coach in Carolina. They both got blown out. McCoy, he was interesting. He had some decent years with the Chargers, but he was a coordinator with Denver, Arizona, and that did not go well. Not talented teams, but he's been the quarterback coach with Peterson the last couple of years.
Yeah, and he was here the first year. He was here a lot, Mike McCoy, just at training camp and practice. So they're close. There's nobody who's not closer to Nick than Kevin Patullo, though, with the exception of perhaps Shane Steichen. So, if Nick had his druthers, I think Kevin would have already been the offensive coordinator. And now that he's won the Super Bowl, I can't imagine they won't give him what he wants.
He'll probably bring Brian Johnson back.
Yeah, if you want to make him the coordinator.
There you go.
I think that would upset some people. Statistically, they had a better offense last year than this year, but I digress.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you
Brian Johnson will get his revenge as the offensive coordinator for Jaden Daniels in 2 years when Cliff gets a job.
Yeah, Cliff probably could have gotten a job this year.
He probably could have got the New Orleans job. He said no.
Yeah. So you're right.
We'll see what happens there. Mike, thanks for joining in, brother. We got BLG coming up. We got a roll, man. It's a late one, but we appreciate you joining in. It's great to have you back on the show, Mike. The great people of Birds 365 missed your appearances here, so we're looking forward to talking to you again each week. Great stuff, Mike, and we'll talk to you again next week, brother.
97.3 ESPN South Jersey, 2 to 6. Listen to Mike later today.
Thank you, Mike.
If you can get to the office.
Joining us here on Birds 365. Great job by Mike Gill. We have BLG coming up next. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Let me get to 2 super chats here before we get to BLG. All right. Leonard, we want to be known as a quarterback factory. That's what he says in quotes.
Yeah, that's one of the quotes.
Yeah, I do think it's a little interesting. Hey,
every once in a while,
for the Jalen Hurts draft pick. I mean, I don't understand that.
There's so much fucking revision. It drives me
insane.
It's
not, John. There's an element to this that is what makes organizations go. Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick. He wasn't the fucking plan either. You don't get any credit for that?
No. All I'm asking you to acknowledge is it wasn't the plan. Yes, and a 6th-round pick worked out.
Not everything goes to plan. If everything went to plan in life, we'd be Super Bowl champions every fucking year. That's not how it works.
That's fine. I agree with you. Then don't pretend it was the plan. That's it.
I'm not pretending it was the plan. I'm saying it was one
afterwards. Zander, you can listen to yourself. You're saying
I will listen to myself. I said it was a great contingency plan and a bold draft.
Did not use the fucking word contingency. I used the word contingency.
John,
Howie's great at
was it a bold draft pick in the 2nd round?
It was a cost-effective backup quarterback pick in the 2nd round. Was it a bold pick? It was bold pick.
Let's do something. Find me the last team that paid a quarterback a max contract and then drafted a cost-effective backup in the 2nd round. Does it even exist ever in NFL history?
Okay, try to listen what I'm saying. You're moving the goalposts because you want to win this is a Jody argument. You want to win the argument so bad, you're just going to move it everywhere you want to move it.
No.
All I'm saying is try to listen to this. It was not the original plan. So Howie does not deserve credit for saying, I'm going to draft Jalen Hurts and say, this is going to be my Super Bowl winning quarterback in 2025. All I'm saying is that.
No credit for that.
The bullshit of the revision. Now, when things went off, and again, Howie deserves a lot of blame for things going off the rails because they didn't think about that. And then they recovered, to their credit, because once you make a mistake, the only thing you can do is fix it. And the only way you can fix it is to acknowledge the mistake. And by the way, I haven't even gotten to the point, and BLJ can come on the show and tell you yourself if you don't want to believe me. This team, after 2021, was trying to convince Deshaun Watson, trying to convince Russell Wilson to see if they wanted to come to Philadelphia. People ignore it. People don't believe it. It's utter bullshit. The fact that Jalen Hurts worked out is a testament to Jalen Hurts. It's a testament to his work ethic. It's a testament to a million different things. But that bullshit that it was the plan is complete bullshit. That's it. Now, move the goalpost wherever you want to go. It worked out. Howie deserves credit for the contingency. That's what he's the best at. That's what makes him the best in the business. Just don't go back to the draft pick. He wasn't drafted to be a superstar quarterback here. He was drafted to be a cost-effective backup and spin him off 3 years down the road. That's why it was
That's not what I disagree with you on. I disagree that Howie doesn't deserve any credit. I understand. I know Jalen was in. I have a tweet from a month ago talking about Jalen deserves the most credit for seizing the opportunity. But to say Howie didn't go out on a limb or that wasn't a good move by him.
Give Jeffrey credit for that because he's the one who fucking pushed for it.
All right,
he's the one who fucking loved it.
Credit.
He's the one who compared him to Russell Wilson, or at least that's what I'll tell you. But it's just, look, it worked out. They're Super Bowl champions, and people want to act like, and I'm the first guy in fucking town that said Howie Roseman was a top 5 GM when everybody was shitting on him.
That's true.
And he is a top 5 GM, and he's phenomenal at his fucking job. What he didn't do is make every right decision at every point.
Well, nobody does. I mean,
but now you want to win the argument, so you want to move the fucking goalposts.
I'm not interested in winning the argument. I think there deserves to be credit for drafting Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round after paying a quarterback a max fucking contract. I don't give a shit what the plan was.
You deserve credit for drafting Jordan Mailata in the 7th fucking round. Well, I mean, yeah, credit. obviously. And by the way, he doesn't deserve. I'll also defend him for the Jalen Reagor pick. I defended him because that was the coaching staff and how we learned from that, by the way. And he said, you know what? If I'm going to get the shit for these picks, I'm going to make sure I take the guy I want. And at least if it doesn't work, I can own it. So I defend him for stuff like that. And everybody wants to shit on him for that. It goes both ways. Nobody's going to be 100% on draft picks, number one. It's absurd. Number two, to act like any third-day pick or act like any is all of a sudden turns into a star or turns into a Hall of Famer. I got to cover John Randall earlier in my career. He was a 12th-round pick. People don't even know he wasn't a 12th-round pick. Excuse me, he's undrafted. when it was a 12-round draft. And, people want to take credit for him deserving turning into a Hall of Fame player. Of course. But it's not the fucking plan. That's all I'm saying.
Right,
not the fucking plan.
I agree. I agree to that. All right. Good stuff. We got one more super chat read, and then we'll get to BLG. James Carver says, I love off-season J-Mac. It's not just Friday. Say something crazy and J-Mac's going nuclear. He doesn't care who it's directed at. I sure as shit get tons of it, but I love J-Mac and Z in the offseason. Well done, James Carver. Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. We do have a lot of fun in the offseason. There's no doubt about it here. Let's get to BLG joining us now on Birds 365. BLJ, welcome into the Thunderdome, man. We got some heat going on in here.
Hey, you guys don't need me. You're electric right now, both of you.
How you doing, BLJ?
I want you, BLG. I mean, can we at least look at BLG, somebody outside, because people are. It was not the plan that Jalen Hurts was going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Can we at least agree with that?
It was not the plan. Obviously, when you draft, when you do the quarterback factory thing, when you invest in quarterbacks, you can get high upside. But yes, you have to absolutely acknowledge that this team, once upon a time, made a big effort to get Deshaun Watson. That would have been a disaster. Made a big effort to get Russell Wilson. Those players didn't want to come here, and that was relevant. And even you saw it in their actions. They had that trade down in what was it, 2021, to potentially have a future pick, for 2022 to maybe trade for a quarterback. And obviously they didn't need to do that. And they didn't do that just because of that, but they absolutely wanted to have the optionality of doing that. But they built around Jalen Hurts ultimately instead.
It was still a bold pick, though. Will you agree with that? I mean, I agree with Scott. It was a bold pick. All right.
Yeah,
that's all I was trying to say is that it was a bold pick, unconventional pick, and it worked out for the better. No doubt about it. BLG, I do want to get into obviously what just unfolded. We've talked to you all year, all right? Before we get into some of the details of the game and obviously what the team just accomplished, I mean, just kind of how you view this journey or this season as we sit here today. I know we're only 3 days out, and I'm sure it will change as you continue to look back, but boy, the ups and downs of the year, the discussion about the passing, the discussion about all of the things that happened the week 4 bye week, the Cleveland game where Nick Sirianni sounded off. I mean, this is a hell of a journey for this team. Obviously, it ended on top of the mountain. How do you view back? How do you look back right now at this season when you think back on this season? What comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, what a wild ride. It is funny to talk about the passing offense after we just saw it look really good in these 2 games, but this is exactly why it mattered, because when you can get that going, it's a really big deal. And, Jalen was obviously awesome in the NFC Championship game, awesome in the Super Bowl. He stepped up most of what mattered. I mean, it's the whole team. Like, you go through, Avonte Maddox has a 4th down pass breakup in the Super Bowl. You can go up and down the list. Cooper DeJean finally gets his first interception on his birthday. Saquon Barkley didn't have his best game in terms of his standard that we're used to seeing, but still, really big in pass protection. Jahan Dotson steps up. It's just been an incredible ride this season for this team, and for it to ultimately culminate, going from, okay, Nick Sirianni's looking pretty unhinged here after this Browns game. Things feel a little weird, to ultimately they come together and they figure it out, and they go on this special run to prevent a three-peat once again, and have the most historical dominant performance maybe ever in the Super Bowl. It's just really an incredible story.
Yeah, defensive. I can't get past the defense, BLG, in the game. And the one stat that stood out to me is the only game in the NFL this season where an offense did not run a single play in opposition territory for the first 9 drives of a game. They didn't get into Eagles territory for 9 drives with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And think about all the games in the end. Think about all the shitty quarterbacks. I've been giving Tommy DeVito straight. All the backup quarterbacks, all the injured quarterbacks. And you're playing maybe the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks ever, maybe the best quarterback in the generation. How does that even happen? If you could give the Super Bowl MVP to Big Fangio, I'm giving it to Big Fangio.
I agree. I mean, because that's not a slight on Jalen Hurts. It's just the defense was so unreal. Like you said, 20 plays the Chiefs ran in the first half, and they got 13 yards out of those. 13. It took 20 plays just to get 13 yards, and 7 of those are the Eagles scored 7 points in those two with Cooper DeJean's pick 6. I mean, like, talk about just domination and setting the tone. And obviously, the offense did their part when they got the ball, but I mean, the defense just did something that like we've never seen before.
One of the best,
John.
One of the best defensive performances I've ever seen. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat on the biggest stage as pending free agents play, maybe their best games, certainly of this season. Zach Bond, you think about it, Zach Bond went wire to wire. I Green Bay and Brazil, and we're all like, what? Zach Bond might have been the best player on the field defensively. And then he makes the diving interception on Patrick Mahomes, which set up the A.J. Brown touchdown, really put the game out of reach for good. The Stars performed at the best moment. As you look forward and you look to free agency, I think it's 4 guys. Zach Bond, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and then probably Mekhi Becton on the offensive side. Can you keep this together, BLG?
Definitely not all of it. I think Zach Bond, I mean, he got defensive player of the year votes. He was all pro, made a big play every single freaking week. Like, I don't know how you don't resign that guy. I don't care what the price is. That's when you just have to figure it out. You don't let what teams are letting all pro players walk out the door.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So I think Zach Bond is going to be back. I think they'll figure that out. Josh Sweat, I think he's kind of my feeling about him. I don't know if you disagree, John, is that like feels like he's kind of been out the door already just from last year.
Yeah.
They bring him back on a pay cut. Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe that relationship is not really going to last for the long term. And I just think,
didn't he say something at Media Week where he's like, "This is the biggest off season of my life" and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's why Howie Roseman. I mean, he's being proactive.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he even made a comment that he wishes he got Super Bowl MVP, or he thought he could have got Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he's in bag boosting mode right now.
Yeah.
As he should be.
This is, probably the last time, Josh can get a multi-year deal for big money. So at his age, you go all the way back, BLG, his knee issues, even though that pisses Josh off, and rightfully so, because he's been durable. He's gotten past it. But people still think about it. If you're paying somebody $15 to $20 million, you're going to think about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that factors into the mix. I'm with you. I think Josh Sweat's the one guy who I say he's probably not going to be back. Mm-hmm. I could see a path for everybody else. Josh, he's probably not going to be back. Is how I look at it.
And especially after that Super Bowl, I mean, the price tag went way up, and good for him. And when you talk about the knee too, real quick, like it's not even just like, oh, he's missing games. It's more about like we saw it the end of 2023 where he had to play a lot more snaps than he usually did in his career. And that effectiveness went down. And honestly, even like Zander, you had me on last week. You were asking me about Josh Sweat because he had like 0 sacks in his last 5 games before this one here. So there is kind of like a wonder of how he's going to do and hold up over the course of a season. But obviously, he was amazing in the Super Bowl. So good for him.
BLJ, what's your thoughts on Jalen Hurts, man? With this, me and John have kicked this around a little bit, and he's now a Super Bowl champion. Feels like. Not talking about the draft. I'm talking about more like the fact that he's overcome what he's overcome. Now he's a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP. When you view Jalen Hurts, how do you look at that career, the development of his career? Me and John debate that he's a highly criticized quarterback. I think he's criticized more so than other quarterbacks in the league. How do you see it? How do you see what he accomplished? And did this change anything for him from a macro perspective for you?
It does. I think, again, it just solidifies that he's a big game player. And I put a lot of stock in that. I think there are quarterbacks who, put up good, gaudy regular season numbers, like Lamar Jackson, let's say. Obviously, like Lamar Jackson, I think is one of the best regular season players of all time. He's awesome. In the playoffs, it's a little bit of a different story. And it's not just him, especially this year. He was let down a little bit by his team. But in the past, he's come up small in some big moments. And how many other quarterbacks have there been like that? And with all due respect to Donovan McNabb, kind of came up small in a lot of big moments back in his day. So I think there's absolutely something to the quarterbacks who do rise to the occasion. I think that's very real. And that fits what we know about Jalen Hurts too. He's composed. He's not rattled out there. Like the moment's not too big for him ever. And Jeffrey Lurie talked about having confidence in him heading
A
into
clutch
this game.
gene, Jeffrey
Clutch
said.
gene.
Clutch
Yeah, I
gene.
mean, but I think that can get like overstated sometimes with certain players and overrated. But with Jalen Hurts, I don't think it is. I felt like going into this game, he was going to have a good game. Like I wasn't worried about that happening. And I mean, just for him to have a really strong performance against the defense, that was a big talking point leading into the Super Bowl. How's he going to handle this blitz? I mean, did it great.
Yeah. I thought Kellen came up with a good game plan, partially because I talked to him. I thought they should run go routes all day, and they did. I think that's how they dealt with the blitz, and it worked enough to where they played, but also his impact on the running game. One thing, the only thing Kansas City did that they probably set out to accomplish was stopping or keeping Saquon Barkley under control. But you look up and all of a sudden here's Jalen Hurts gashing him on the ground. So you still have that running part of the game there. And his ability, he's such a unique player. I use that term all the time. He's relentless. He can beat you so many different ways. And he does seem to play his best in the biggest moments. So all credit to Jalen Hurts. He's 2 for 2 in Super Bowls. Ironically, BLG, the first Super Bowl, I still think, is his best game he's ever played. I really believe that.
I agree with that.
He was so good in that one. So he deserves a ton of credit. But I do want to talk about Kellen Moore, who's officially the head coach in New Orleans this year. It's such an interesting year because I think most of the year we're saying, this is not what was advertised from Kellen Moore. But you win the Super Bowl and you get a head coaching job that happens a lot in this league. How worried about you? It's been such a talking point. Another new offensive coordinator, whoever, whether it's going to be Kevin Patullo or somebody else, for Jalen Hurts. How concerned is that to you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on who they pick. I mean, maybe Kellen Moore was truly saving his best plays for last, by the way, because that's what it kind of looked like based on what we saw. But yeah, I mean, it really depends who they go with here. The options aren't as plentiful as obviously if your season ended earlier, but you don't want your season to end earlier.
Yeah.
So, it seems like Kevin Patullo will probably have a decent chance here. I mean, he's never called plays before, so I don't know what to make of that. And there's some other names out there, like Frank Reich or whoever. We'll see if the Eagles go something like that route. It really depends on who they hire. And ultimately, I think that I would think that Nick Sirianni's earned a little bit more say than certainly he had last year when his coordinators were hired for him. But we'll see if that's the case.
Would you be upset if it's just in-house Kevin Patullo getting elevated?
I mean, I would if it's like obviously they have to interview at least 2 minority candidates for the job. But I'd be more disappointed if they just kind of did that for all checking boxes and then just went with him anyway. I would not be upset if they had like a real kind of search and then ultimately determined that he was the guy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought he was the right hire, but Johnny Mac went there as well. BLG, I'm a little upset about it. Not because I thought that Kellen Moore overachieved, but I think you started to see what we wanted to see all year in the final 2 games of the season, 95 points in 2 games. Saquon Barkley gets bottled up in the Super Bowl. No problems. Pass right by him and you put up 40 points on the board. So you would hope that they can continue that ascension. I think if you go outside the locker or outside the building, do you mess up that continuity? And how much do you put, me and John, this is another thing we talk about all the time, the continuity with Jalen Hurts. Like, it's not ideal. It's going to happen when you're successful. But is there anything we can do to give him a little bit more continuity to try and get the most out of your investment, get the most out of, this offense and the player that you've built this offense around? I think there's got to be something better. I like the idea of maybe a Vic Fangio version on offense. That's easier said than done. But how do you see that part of it?
Yeah, you really just don't see it around the league. As I've said, it's 2022 is the longest tenured offensive coordinator. And then, the real answer is have the head coach call plays. That's the only way to guarantee, you're keeping that guy basically.
Which they're not going to do.
Which exactly they're not going to do. And we obviously saw how that didn't go well in the past. So I don't think there's an amazing answer. I think part of what successful organizations do in general is you have to restock the pipeline of good assistant coaches. Like that's part of it, part of being a successful team, because as we've talked about, like the rules are that you hire guys away. Like that's just part of it. That's not like unfair or something that you can like complain about too much. So when that's part of the game, and also you benefit from that as well, potentially from who you hire at certain points. So yeah, it's just about, I think, being able to identify and also maybe not meddling like they did when they promoted Brian Johnson. Maybe that could be a plus to Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni's relationship. Him is kind of just like, trusting him to actually handle that and call the plays if they end up going with him.
I'm glad you brought up, over at Bleeding Green Nation, you can read BLG over there. Tremendous website. You're 40. I think you had 40 winners, 6 losers, 3 I don't knows. Amongst that large group of winners, and to be honest, you may have lowballed because they played so well in the Super Bowl. Could have been more than 40. But one of them was Jeffrey Lurie. I don't think, and you called him the best owner in Philadelphia sports history.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't disagree with you. It's cliche, but it starts at the top. Jake Rosenberg, I don't know if you saw Jake. He was a front office sports did some kind of thing about the Eagles being in cap hell down the road. And Jake's like laughing at him. And I hope 31 other teams, I'm paraphrasing, but hopefully the Eagles think 31 other teams are looking at it that way. The Eagles win because of Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, I really believe it starts there. And there's so many owners who don't understand what it takes to win, to have what kind of luxury it is to have Jeffrey Lurie for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely. I mean, he gives them an edge in multiple ways, in that he's patient. Like Howie Roseman isn't able to have the success and runway that he's had, and willingness to make bold moves and not have to like worry about his job security all the time like other GMs do. If Jeffrey Lurie isn't patient and doesn't have conviction and believe in him. And you look at, obviously there's the salary cap, but cash spending is a different thing. And the Eagles consistently rank towards the top of the league in cash spending, as they do. They're second this year. They're second next year. They're first in 2027 currently. They're first in 2028 currently. And then they're like fifth in 2029 currently, which is, a bit away. But, they're not afraid to spend in future years. And, there's downside associated with that. Obviously, there's risk and that your investments could go poorly. Jeffrey Lurie's not really worried about that because he knows ultimately he can give his team an edge by taking on those risks. So, yeah, he absolutely deserves a lot of credit. This isn't just like, you see the owner hold up a trophy. Like he's kind of like an owner in name, but he doesn't really, actually help out the team in any kind of significant way other than just literally having a bunch of money and owning it. He's like an active owner. And in the past, we've talked about how, oh no, is that a concern? Is he too involved? I think he's at the right level involved. People talk about like how you want your owner to kind of just not really meddle at all. And I generally agree with that in terms of like, you don't want him like making these micro decisions and stepping on the toes of your GM and everything.
Yeah.
But you do want him to care, and he cares.
You don't want him to be Jerry Jones having a press conference after every game and that type of thing. But yeah, it's, and you mentioned the salary cap. The other part I would say is there's no salary cap off the field. And I always look at Cincinnati. I always chuckle because I think Duke Tobin's one of the best GMs in football because he's got like a 6-person staff. Howie's got like a 30-person staff. So, Jeffrey's willing to give you everything you need to have a successful organization, have a successful operation. And he does deserve his flowers now that the Eagles have taken home a second Lombardi trophy. So I'm glad you mentioned him because I didn't. And I'm glad you put him in there as one of the 40 winners. And again, I think you lowballed it, BLG.
Probably.
BLG, looking at the edge rusher, all right, I think Josh Sweat's out the door for sure. Jalix Hunt was a lot better this year than I thought he would be in year one. How do you view that rotation next year? What do you think Howie will try and do to address it in the offseason? Is Myles Garrett an option. How do you see that edge rusher position playing out?
I mean, if you're looking for like the defensive version of Saquon Barkley, obviously Myles Garrett's been really good before. He's one defensive player of the year. But like maybe hitting even another gear. I mean, could he do that in Philadelphia? Absolutely. And like, look, I don't know ultimately if the Eagles will have, the space and the pick, the picks that they want to give up and everything that might go into that. And we'll see if the Browns actually do deal him. They don't have to deal him just because Myles Garrett wants out. They could play hardball with him. We'll see. But yes, I mean, that's a player. It's not a debate. Like if Myles Garrett's available, you figure out a way to get him if you can, because that is he's one of the best whatever players in the NFL, and at a premium position and at a spot where you could really use it. Also, by the way, probably doesn't maybe hurt that he seems to kind of be friendly with Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, as we've seen John in these like joint training camp practices. I mean, maybe they're like, don't trade for him because they don't want to have to deal with him in practice going up against him. But yeah, I absolutely think that's something you have to make a push for.
The way Jordan talks about Myles Garrett is crazy, by the way. Jordan Mailata. That would be something. I heard a couple, there's whispers in New Orleans about teams. You can sense teams getting jealous about the Eagles' success because, they're saying if Myles goes to Philadelphia, there's going to be some tampering talk. Because everybody's so worried about Myles Garrett being in Philadelphia, and they should be, because that would be something. But that they're going to have to give up a lot if you're able to get. You're talking, just remember, BLG, you have the 32nd pick. You're going to be good next year. You might be 30, 31, 32. You don't have the first round picks other people have, so you probably have to give up multiple first round picks, probably another day 2 pick, probably a player or two. He's going to cost a lot. He's one of the best players in the world, but that would be something if the Eagles could add him to this group. That would certainly be the crown jewel of the offseason. I would describe it. One of the more underrated sort of players, I think, during this run through the Super Bowl was Oren Burks. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought that was going to be a catastrophe when Jacoby went down. And he was just rock solid the whole way, to the point the playoffs started, and you remember Vic kind of said, well, maybe we'll mix in Jeremiah Trotter. You got the feeling it would be, all right, who had the hot hand? Did we go with him? But Oren started and never gave it up because he played well through the played a tremendous Super Bowl. I bring him up because he's a free agent. And Nakobe Dean suffered a very serious knee injury, patellar injury. No guarantee he's going to be there. I'd be shocked if he is going to be there week 1. Do you have to bring Oren Burks back? It's not going to be splashy, but you might have to give him 2 years, or you're comfortable with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And this is assuming Zach Bond's back.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think you certainly monitor the market on that one. I mean, and it's also like kind of crazy when you think back to this is a guy who missed most of training camp. He didn't play, I think, until that final preseason game. He didn't even make the roster originally.
He got cut. Yeah.
So like, and also the way I keep thinking about Oren Burks is like how many Eagles linebackers as starters, have been like terrible over the years. You got Oren Burks as your third guy. Like he's been better than a lot of starters that they've had for a long time. And also kind of a really cool moment, come full circle moment for him last year. He got picked on when he had to go into the game for the 49ers against the Chiefs. And this year, obviously playing on a better defense, he certainly played a lot better. And he alleviated a lot of the concerns that were there because Nakobe Dean was having an awesome season. He goes down. It's like, oh no, what's the defense going to look like now? And he steps up and plays incredibly well, especially for the standards of a backup. So yeah, I do think you monitor his situation, especially because you don't know what you're getting, if anything, if he's even able to play really at all next year from Nakobe Dean. And you have to consider that.
Should be good, BLG. BLG, any final thoughts on this Super Bowl season, brother? I mean, we're wrapping it up. We're already moving into the offseason. What did I say? We're 15 days away, BLG, from the NFL Combine. We're 28 days away from free agency and 71 days away from the NFL Draft. So this sucker is going to turn quick, as it always does in the offseason. But any final thoughts on what this team accomplished this year, kind of going up against, I don't know, the odds or whatever you want to call it? Any final thoughts on what they did this year?
I think this is a Super Bowl win that will really be more not that it's not appreciated now, but I think it's just it was almost so to me, so shocking to fully hardly comprehend in the moment. Because this doesn't happen often, at least in modern Super Bowl history. We don't really see a lot of blowouts like this anymore. And it doesn't happen more specifically in Philadelphia. It's never just easy. A team wins a championship and it's a joyride. That's not this is unprecedented territory. And the fact that, all these years, Eagles fans are teased and taunted for 0 rings. Now they have 2. How do you even reconcile that? How do you comprehend that after all this time? And again, that maybe this is the start of a little, special, even more special run for them. And obviously take the time to enjoy this one, but you have to think that maybe they can do this again, or at least they'll be in the mix for this with quarterback, roster, GM, the infrastructure they have in place. This isn't just a fluke. This isn't a one-off. This is maybe a team that can hang around and has staying power. So just a really, at the very least, regardless of what happens moving forward, just an incredible season.
At Brandon Gouton, make sure you follow the great BLG on bleedinggreennation.com. Follow him on X as well. Does a tremendous job. The offseason is just going to heat up. BLG. I like the offseason more than the regular season. I really do, because there's so many more interesting topics to talk about. It never ends with the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody does a better job covering them than BLG. I'll end it where I started at Vic Fangio. I could not convince people, BLG, that Vic Fangio was a better coordinator than Spags leading up to this game. In Philadelphia, right. I couldn't convince anybody. He had a great quote about Dean Smith after the game, which was tremendous. Basically, Dean Smith went to a bunch of NCAA Final Fours, never won. One of the great college basketball coaches of all time. Finally got over the hump. And Dean said, I'm the same coach today as I was yesterday. I just got a championship. That's sort of like Vic Fangio. Mm-hmm. I always say, Vic is the one everybody copies, not Steve. With all due respect, Steve's good. Don't get me wrong. But Vic's the guy everybody copies. It's really special season to watch Vic Fangio. I think I talked to you a couple weeks ago and I said, I can't imagine this guy being better than his reputation. He was at every step of the way.
All time. I mean, there's no nickname for the Eagles defense like there is, you think of the 85 Bears or whatever, some of those Steelers teams or the 2000 Ravens. But this has to be remembered up there. They were awesome. It's insane to me. Sorry, AP voters, but I don't know how you're voting 2 defensive coordinators over Vic Fangio.
By the way, I'm one of those AP voters, and I voted for Vic as assistant coach of the year.
Well, I respect that.
He was first on your ballot, John?
Yes. Yeah.
But even if he wasn't, okay, you want to put Ben Johnson over him, I'm not going to lose sleep over that, but you're going to put Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores over him. I mean, come on. He was literally had the best defense in the regular season all season. So it's not even just this is a postseason thing. Hindsight.
And I love Brian Flores, but come on. I'm with you. And I knew Ben was going to win. I knew that.
Sure. And that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. But I thought Vic was the best coach. I did. Yeah. And he proved it in the end.
Yes, he did. No doubt about it. BLG, thanks for joining in, man. We appreciate it so much. You any parade plans on Friday? Are you going down there? What's the deal with Friday for you?
I think the right move is to, at least for me, is going to be, I'm going to go see it with my own eyes in person along the route somewhere, and then maybe try to watch the rest, on TV. Want to see the speeches. I'm really intrigued. I don't think anyone is topping Jason Kelsey's speech.
No, that's I can't even imagine who's that guy.
I saw someone put out Landon might be a dark horse candidate. Well, I think that could be good.
No one will top him, but there will be someone who has the speech, the best speech from this. Right. And I'm really interested to see. I've been thinking about that. I was like, who's that going to be? Could be Landon. I think Jordan Mailata is a good candidate as well. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Jordan's going to throw some F-bombs out there.
I'll
so
say to you this: good luck getting that. Once my mindset is once I go into that city, I'm not getting out of that city until the parade is done because I don't think it's going to be hard to do. But be safe, BLG. We appreciate you joining the show, brother, and we'll talk to you again next week.
See you guys.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, man. There's BLG joining the show. Great stuff there from BLG. Great stuff from both our guests today. Good to get Mike Gill back on. Good to have BLG on. So another fiery show, Johnny Mac. I like it. We got some energy here on Birds 365 this week.
Yeah, you're pushing my buttons.
I don't know. I'm not intentionally
getting better. You're getting better.
You know, I don't feel like our argument was even understood because you're telling me that he was a contingency. I'm like, I fucking know. This has been common knowledge for 3 years now. I mean, what are we arguing? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You changed. You shipped it. That's a Jody move.
Shift. You made it like the hole the size this big, and if it doesn't fit in that hole, then it's not a relevant part of the conversation.
Again, everything's archived. I encourage everybody. They will see the movement. What
was my movement? You tell me.
One thing I already told you. You started in a place and then realized it was going in the wrong direction, so you moved your space. No, I'm the guy who said contingency. I'm the guy who said
that's common knowledge. I knew that. I've known that for years.
Well, you've known it because I've said it, and
everybody's known it, John. This isn't something to take a victory lap on.
All right, okay, I'll leave it at that.
You don't think everybody knows that Jalen Hurts wasn't drafted to be the starter?
Well, then why? No, I think everybody knows that, but then I think they get revisionist after the success and saying, "What a move! How brilliant to do that!" Like the end game was in play. That's the problem.
Well, that's the issue. Still think, I mean, all right, let's.
That's the issue.
You got to
you can't. You can say two things could be correct at the same time. It wasn't the plan, and it worked out beautifully for the organization. That's it. Period. End of sentence.
And it was a good decision.
But the people at the end of the day making the decision out to be more than it was, that I think is being dishonest to the people. So I will not agree with it because that was not the plan. That's fine because I say the best part of Howie Roseman as a GM is the contingencies. It wasn't a plan to draft Quinyon Mitchell this year. Worked out. He's great with contingencies. You always have the problem with most GMs is they get punched in the face because you're dealing with 31 other teams. So unless you have,
I just think a second round pick. I mean, look, there's a lot of options there in the second round. You can trade out, you can gain more assets, you can draft any other player. I think they deserve some credit for taking the player there, whether the plan was for him to be a Super Bowl winner.
You deserve credit to get any good player. You deserve credit for getting Jordan Mailata in the 7th round. But then what you don't say is when he turns into the best left tackle in football, which he was this year. I firmly believe that.
Right.
They thought he was going to be the best left tackle. That part is just drives me crazy.
That's fine. Let's get to a couple super chat, and then I want to do something real quick before we get out of here. Devin Parker says, "This is why I love Birds 365. 3 days after winning a championship, and we're in a heated debate. Get him, J Mac. I love it."
I'm not a big revisionist guy.
Brian Fleming says, "J Mac, I love you and agree with you always because you're a god tier football mind. You're right about Hurts. I was kidding about Thuney being a cuck, but his wife Rachel definitely got run through by Wolfpack.
Oh, now come on.
I mean, he's putting me in a tough spot there, Brian Fleming. Come on.
Yeah, that's not. Come on. Be more
classy. Real quick.
Ron Burgundy. Keep it classy. Keep it classy.
Here's a quick exercise. All right. I'm going to give you the 4 free agents. I'm going to give you a projected fake and made up number that I think could be reasonable for these guys. I want you to tell me if you think the Eagles would do it and if you think my numbers are way off. All right. Zach Bond, I have 3 years, $50 million. Would the Eagles do it? And is my number way off?
3 years, 50. Yeah, I think it's too high. But,
too high?
Yeah. But I think the Eagles are going to re-sign Zach Bond.
Okay, so you think Bond's going to be back, but you think that's a little high on the number. Milton Williams, I got 4 years, and this is influenced by you. I didn't like this number, but 4 years, $85 million.
Yeah, I think that's right in the ballpark, and I don't think the Eagles can get it done.
You think Fangio's going to have any, like, don't you think Fangio's going to go to Howie and say, listen, dude, I need Zach Ball back? Didn't a
Well, I think everybody's on board with that. I think there's no chance Zach Ball is leaving.
Right, but hear me out. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Vic Fangio want to trade for Milton Williams in Miami?
Yes, he did.
So, dude, that's a clear showing that he loves the player. Does that?
I mean, look, I just gave Vic all the plaudits he deserved, but I mean, yeah, Howie's not going to just sign people because Vic wants them. I mean, it's a difficult job, and when you start getting into that, is he a $20 million a year player? No. Is he a good player? Yes. Does he deserve to be paid like a superstar? Probably not. Will he get paid like a superstar? Probably, because he performed in the Super Bowl. That's a difficult decision for Howie Roseman. Like, you love the player, but is he really one of the best defensive tackles? He's not the best defensive tackle on your team.
I know.
And remember, eventually you got to pay Jalen Carter.
Yeah, and if you sign Milton, Jordan Davis got to go, right? Can't get them all.
There's all kinds of repercussions to doing these decisions. And when you have a really good player who's not even the best player at your position on the team, it's very hard to put him at the top of the food chain.
All right, something we must do before free agency starts. We need to do a deep dive into the cap, all right? Because I'm seeing stuff everywhere about the cap. We talk about it all the time on this show. We need to dive into it, all right? The amount of that article I saw Jake Rosenberg's response. I see people in the chat talking about the cap and how much money, and I think there's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to get Jake on the show in the offseason.
Oh, that would be awesome if we could get.
I haven't seen him doing interviews because he's got a job with working with college teams, so I'm not sure if he's doing it. But if he's willing to do it, nobody understands the cap better than Jake Rosenberg. So
yeah, and he's basically saying that the Eagles are in a good spot. Becton, I put 4 years, $50 million. Now that might seem a little low, but I don't know what you think of that number.
Well, Mackay's, I can't get a beat on Mackay because A, the position, and B, the injuries. Like there's a lot of things that factor.
Yeah, that's kind of why I didn't put him up above 15 million because Landon got what, 20, right?
I could see Mackay getting, 10 million plus for 5 years. I could see him getting 5. I mean, it's so much of it will have to do.
So 4 at 50 is what, 12.5 a year. You think that's a reasonable number? If
it's reasonable, if you want to make him a left tackle again, it's reasonable.
Oh, so you don't think he would get that if he's like if Philly were to re-sign him to be their right guard? You don't think?
No, I don't think he'd get that much.
Okay, you thinking more 10? You thinking more 7, 8?
8
that
to
feels
10.
Low.
8 to 10.
All right, 8 to 10. Geez, that seems low for Mackay, but I get it. Sweat.
Well, I think most of it has to do with the knee.
Yeah, the injury and stuff. I get it. And only 1 year of being productive. I think that factors in too. Sweat, I have 3 for 51 because that's what Huff got, and I think that's what Sweat. I think
he's going to get a little bit more than that because, A, he's got Drew Rosenhaus. B, he just showed up on the Super Bowl stage. C, there's a bunch of dumb teams. I think Josh.
The dumb teams. You don't think the dumb teams matter in the NFL until you have guys on free agency.
I think Josh has been one of the most underrated Eagles for years. I think he's a really good player. By dumb team, that's not an insult on Josh the player. It's just that
people overpay.
Yeah, people overpay. And again, injuries come into it from the standpoint of longevity. Longevity has always been a thing with Josh Sweat because of his injury from high school. So he might only be 28 or he's 27 turning 28, I think. But, always the thought process was that longevity might be an issue with him because of that injury. And that has to factor into it for teams. So similar to Mackay, there's some other outliers whereas Milton just, that's a good player. What are you going to pay him? Nobody's going to be worried about anything else.
Good stuff there. Last super chat here from James Carver. James, appreciate you, man. J-Mac, I knew Hurts was drafted to be a starter and would be Super Bowl champ easily. Just like I was right on Devin White, but was right on Oren Burks. No,
Yeah.
James was right on Oren Burks. I give him that. He was talking about Oren Burks way back. He said he can be a viable guy. Well, he got his moment, James.
Well, I don't think anybody. Orange's been a very good special teams player for years, and the original role, linebacker 3, and that's his role.
Yeah, I weirdly think Oren's going to be one of the first free agents back. I think Howie's going to get him done because
I think the Nakobe injury makes it more. Now
Right.
they might think as well. We have Trotter as a young player.
That's true. That's true.
and he can step in.
I kind of feel bad.
Yeah, that nobody talks about. I'm glad you brought up Devin White. Come on, the Devin White people, boy, they receded like that Homer Simpson meme.
Yes,
right back into the bush.
Oh my God, is that true? Is that true or what? Yeah, that was one of your biggest offseason battles of loud. What will be the offseason battles this summer? Devin White. We'll see how they. There will be some, no doubt about it. We'll see what they end up doing. All right, Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. We appreciate you doing it. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on Birds 365 once again, and we will be back for the great people of JAKIB Nation. Well done, Johnny Mac.
All right, thanks everybody. Back to snow removal locally.
Oh, yeah.
I hope
good luck with
that.
You got a good shovel. You got a snowblower. What are you working with over there?
I got a snow blower. I got everything.
All right, so you're in better shape than you could be. I mean, you don't have an old dinky, broken in the middle plastic shovel that doesn't get all the way down to the pavement. No. You're working a little better than that.
Yeah, but I'm not happy about it either way.
Yeah, well, we might get a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff, brother.
All right, thanks everybody.
All right, there's Johnny Mac here on Birds 365. Well done by John McMullen, #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Another great show, another high energy show for us. Sometimes I don't even know what we're arguing on Birds 365. All right. Sometimes I don't know what the fuck we're arguing on Birds 365. Our segment yesterday was great. I got a lot of views and comments on that segment. Some people were very upset with our cursing. Are we cursing too much on Birds 365? Do I need to tone back the cursing on Birds 365? You guys let me know. It doesn't bother me because I don't think we manufacture curse words. I think it's how most human beings talk. All right. It's how most human beings talk. It doesn't bother me, but I did get a bunch of comments. I listened to this with people, and I'm like, all right, relax. Listen to another show if you don't like it. All right. I see all you guys saying it. I know it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. All right. But yeah, J-Mac loves the curse in his room. I told you guys. You talk to Johnny Mac off the air one time. All right. You talk to Johnny Mac off the air one time. It's cursing every couple words. Johnny Mac will show up to he showed up to the pre-show this morning about the snow. Man. You should have heard him about the snow. Fucking snow and fucking shovel it and fucking this. I get my fucking wife's car out. She had to go to fucking work. I'm like, all right, Johnny Mac, relax. I'm telling you, that's why we had a pent-up show. All right? That's why we had a pent-up show. Yeah, me and J-Mac had a nice little argument today. I didn't really, it was one of those arguments I was not as invested as he was. I understand that Jalen wasn't drafted to be the starter. It doesn't mean it was a bad pick. Or it doesn't mean it wasn't a good pick, I guess would be a better phrase. CZ says, F no. Elite! Yes, Jalen is elite. All right? Those conversations have been put to bed, everybody. Jalen Hurts is elite. I want to promote something, by the way. Not all of you guys saw this last night, all right? Me and my father, Krause, did an amazing segment last night, all right? Me and Joe Krause did an amazing segment last night. A stand-up, all right? I went over to the JAKIB HQ after we wrapped up Silly. We did an hour show standing up together. And for those who saw our pregame show together, we had a really good recap of the season last night. I talk to Cilio and I talk to John every day, all right? It's great. I love talking to Cilio and John, but having a new Prince, I gave you a shout out in that show. Having like a new voice, to talk to and ask me about it was really cool. We got into everything. I was able to expand on some things that I think just from the nature of doing shows every day, you don't talk about some of those things anymore because it's so, I don't want to say old news, but you just don't go down some of those roads when you talk to somebody all year long. So we had a really good stand-up show last night. I was rocking the Super Bowl champion jacket, all right, which is sick. Sorry, everybody, I'm not giving it away. All right. I've given away a lot of stuff this year. I will not be giving away that championship bomber. I will not be giving away the championship bomber that I got at Mitchell and Ness store. Yeah, Prince, I did give you a shout out, brother. I did give you a shout out in the show. Yeah. Dirty D says, Zander, I tried to find the show last night and couldn't find it. Brother, if you click on our YouTube, that's upsetting, by the way. That's upsetting. I'm sorry you couldn't find it. We were live, so it should have showed up. It should have showed up. Let me look. It's over in the live section. All right. So if you go on our channel, click live, you can see it's the Krause and Zander special. All right. Recapping the Eagles' Super Bowl win and incredible season. Really good segment. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. All right. And we have a bunch of other stuff that we're working on. All right. A bunch of other stuff that we're working on here in the offseason. We're going to do a lot of more short form content. All right. Now, Prince, I literally bought that jacket yesterday, bro. I bought that yesterday. Yeah, you're right, Joe Webb. Krause did drop an F-bomb in yesterday. I don't hear that often. All right. You don't hear that often from him. Yeah, Brian, I'm sure you were reeling from the New Orleans trip. I'm sure you were reeling. Yeah, Wild Bear. I thought it was a great segment, man. You know, one of my favorite parts about it, because I've never had a chance to do that, you know, the way I was asked that. It was an interesting perspective from my dad, who knows, obviously, my whole life story, you know, and he's like, you've been with Jalen from the start. And I never really viewed it like that, but I have. I watched Jalen's first career game live and in person at Jerry's World in Dallas when Alabama, first career college game, was a true freshman, and it came out versus USC, and we won 52-6. I was in the building for that game. All right. And I watched his entire career. We were both freshmen at Alabama. He was a freshman. I was a freshman. So I watched him all those years, you know, and then he transferred to Oklahoma. And it was interesting. It was an interesting discussion and an interesting conversation. A-Team says you didn't see the jacket. What do you mean? You were watching the show. You didn't see me wearing it? I guess you might have been listening to it. You might have been listening to it. Yeah, if you guys want me to, Abe, definitely will. I got to have a conversation with Bob Lang because he's kind of got JAKIB on ice. He doesn't let us do anything with the players because he doesn't like Cilio, which I think is just kind of lame, but I get it. I mean, yeah, Prince, I agree. That's a little bit of a tough spot, Prince, but we'll improve it. All right, we'll improve it. I agree with you, though. Somebody says, did you know Jalen personally? Collis, I met Jalen several times. I met him at the Maxwell Awards. That's where we had our most in-depth conversation. I told the one story once. I met him on campus at Alabama in his freshman year, and we were on the lawn, on the main lawn on campus, and Jalen was walking through, and he's kind of not famous, but I mean, you know, he was the first-year starter, the freshman, and winning a lot of football games. And somebody had a football on campus, and they tossed it to Jalen Hurts, and Jalen kind of dropped back and did this big throw to one of the fans on campus, which was really cool, to one of those students on campus. So I don't know him personally. I met him at the Maxwells. I got a picture with him and stuff, but I don't know him personally, no. I'll tell you what, when I talked to him at the Maxwells, he's exactly like you would expect him to be off the camera. Exactly like you would expect him to be. Jeff Stoutland will be back, yes. I haven't seen anything at least to insinuate otherwise. I haven't seen anything to insinuate otherwise. A Zander coat. You know, that coat, yeah, that's an old. You talking about the coat my dad was wearing last night? Yeah, that was cool. KCA, you had a lot of dumb comments last night. I almost ripped you. A lot of stupid comments from you last night, brother. Somebody just ordered some JAKIB merch. Who do we got? CZ, and I think my boy Slagger ordered some merch earlier this morning. So thank you both. Some merch orders coming in. JAKIBsports.com to get your JAKIB merch. I'm working on some new merch in the offseason too. All right. Thank you, CZ, for the merch order, brother. If you're in here, I thought I saw you in here a little earlier. You gave us the elite super chat. So thank you so much. I didn't get any giveaway stuff yet. Tony's been unavailable. And then last night I had to do a show. And now today we're snowed in. So I'm a little bit on hold there. But don't worry, I'm getting a lot of stuff. All right. I've already talked to Tony. I've already talked to the legend. I've talked to the legendary Tony. All right. So we'll see what he has to say. And I'll get some more stuff for the great people of JAKIB Nation. All right. I'll take a couple more comments and then we'll get out of Dodge. It was a good show today. All right. We're going to be doing, by the way, I promoted last night. I'm going to keep promoting. We're doing a lot more now that the offseason has come. All right. I got a whiteboard here. I got all of my offseason goals. All right. And things I want to do to improve the network. So we're going to start to be implementing more of them. So we'll be implementing more of them, shorts, all sorts of different things. So keep it locked in, all right, for all the new content we got coming up. We're gonna have more shorts, more short form content, and I'm looking forward to doing it all. Slager checks in. Slager, I appreciate you ordering the new merch, man. He says, "Yo, Z, I had to order a new hat because I lost my hat in NOLA." Oh no, are you telling me there's a JAKIB hat out in the streets of New Orleans right now? Somebody's wearing that hat, Slager. I don't know who. Somebody. But the mojo is strong because the hat was lost before the game, but it was somewhere in New Orleans and they won. I love it. Somewhere in New Orleans. Somewhere in New Orleans. Joe Whip says, we need a parade meetup point. I agree, Joe. I saw your email last night. Who is going to the parade? Who is going to the parade? Who's going to the parade? All right, I want to get a crew. I'm trying to figure out my show plan. William's going to the parade. William, are you going with family or do you want to try and meet up with the great people of JAKIB Nation? Jason A-Team's trying to go. No Limits going. Who's going with a bunch of people or who wants to try and meet up? I'd love to get a picture of me and all of the great people, as many people from JAKIB Nation as I can find at the parade. I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. I think that would be really dope. I really do. I love meeting the people. I'd love to put a face to a name with a lot of you guys. Devin says, I wish I could make it. You guys be safe. William, I'd love to meet you, brother. Slager's meeting his nephew. I figured there's a lot of people probably meeting their family and stuff. Yeah, A-Team says, I'd be trying to meet up. Jason, I'd love to meet up with you, brother. You can roll with me, man. I'd love if anybody's going like alone or like Jason said with a fiance or a wife or a girlfriend or something like that, I think we could get a crew, man. I'd love to film some content. You know, I don't know, maybe you guys don't want to be in content, but if for anybody that would want to be in content, I want to film some content from the day and then try and make a video after that I can post up and can live, you know, on the channel. If you don't want to be in the content, you don't have to be. All right. I'm not going to force you to be on camera or anything, but I do think that would be pretty cool. Flexen says, me and my brother Flex, we got to meet up down there, man. Yeah. Williams in Michigan, so he won't be there. Bird Gang Girl, I wish, don't have a way there. I will be at the museum by 12-ish. Yeah, nice, Luis. Joe Whip will be alone. All right, Joe, we got to roll together then, maybe. The wife and I are going. Nick, maybe we can get a nice JAKIB crew. You know, that'd be one of the benefits of having a great Eagle community here is that we turn it into a community in person, right? And we can enjoy the great moments that we've all waited for all year long. You know? James says, hope you have a live stream for those. I'm trying, James. You know, it's a little tough, James. I just don't have enough manpower yet, James. I'm trying though. There's some things I can do, but you know, I'm worried. I could simply just go live from my phone. That option exists, but with all the people in the city, dude, I don't think the service is going to be good. That's what I'm worried about. So at the very least, James, I'm going to record content. I have a camera as well that I'll bring down. I'm going to record content and I'd like to post it all up. All right. I'd love it. Look, I'd love to do a stream. That obviously would be ideal for the great people, but there's going to be a bunch of coverage. Abe, I would go live on YouTube if anything. Yeah, we'll see how it all works. I mean, I have the Starlink, but I don't know if it's a big clunky thing. So, and I need an outlet for it. So, you know, I could get I do have a drone, but Prince, they're not going to allow drones. I do have a DJI mini thing, which is pretty cool, but I don't think they're going to allow drones at all. I really don't, because there's a security risk with drones. There's a security risk with drones. Yeah, it's going to be a no-fly zone. Skylink, but Philly Dom, my thing is kind of big. So, and I need an outlet for it. I need an outlet for it. So I got to see. I agree, Slagger. If we could get a landmark place and a time, Joe Whipp sent me a good option last night. Joe Whipp sent me, let me find Joe Whipp's email. Joe mentioned City Hall Courtyard. I think that would be a good option. City Hall would be, if I ended up doing a show down there, I would do I think City Hall, Joe, I think you're right. I think City Hall would be a good meetup point. And then we can all roll down to where the speeches are going to be. I know they put out the parade meet where the ice rink is. That's a good spot. Someone make a JAKIB flag. Maybe I'll go and try and get one made real quick, Abe. It's a good idea. City Hall. Who wants to meet at City Hall? I think City Hall would be good. Joe Whipp, well done. Joe is the Joe, I'm going to start calling you the dad of the chat, all right? Joe, the responsible dad of the chat. Bruce Banner, just get power from a light pole. I don't think it's that simple, Bruce. Remember, the city has been preparing for this. There's going to be cops, barriers, all sorts of things around. So you have to be respectful of, obviously, all the local services that are in the city. It's not just a free-for-all. Eduardo, are you going to the parade? Yeah, and train rides are free. I'm probably going to be down there, man. I'm probably going to be down there to really early in the morning. I don't know. Birds 365 on Friday is tentative. Let me say that. All right. Birds 365 is tentative. What I think would be the most logical option for me in terms of live streaming, I think I have a connection down by City Hall. All right. I spoke with them yesterday, and I think I can get a little boxed off area to do Birds 365 from. So maybe I could do a show in the morning, 8 to 10, and then we meet, and the parade doesn't start till 11. Now, everybody's going to be down there early. So if we met at City Hall at like 10:30, I don't know if that's too late. I don't know if that's a good time for people. And then we could maybe roll and do the rest of the parade. Because at the end of the day, this is why a live show, if I'm not moving, is so hard. The parade moves, and then the speeches are at the end. So I could set up at the end, but then you're going to be kind of washed out with all the people and and all those things. But if I can get a content in the morning before the parade starts, and then I can take my camera and my phone and record footage on the move, I can share that up after. So I think that's the most logical thing. I don't think I can be still down there. I think I got to be on the move. Prince, that'd be cool. I'll be rocking my, let me show you guys the coat for those who missed it. For those who didn't see the coat, man, the coat's pretty sick. I got this at Mitchell & Ness yesterday. All right, it's a bomber. It's a Mitchell & Ness bomber. And then on the back, it's got Super Bowl champs. Really nice. It's like that nice satin Mitchell & Ness. It's really dope. Honestly, not too expensive either. I mean, expensive, but you buy a nice coat. I told you guys, I'm not a jersey guy. I like the other merch. I like the coats and the hats, and I got this new hat yesterday at Mitchell & Ness too. It's not a Super Bowl hat, but it's fresh. It's fresh. See the Eagles on the side? It's nice. Nice lid, all right? Nice lid. So, yeah, the jacket's sweet. I think the jacket was $200, James, which I didn't think was crazy. I mean, the Princess Diana jackets were $400. And honestly, I kind of like that jacket a lot better. It's just more my style. Yeah, $200, not bad. $200, not bad. And it's very nice. It's nice quality. Nice quality. Oh, hell yeah. Eduardo checks in. Zander, how can I get in contact with you to plan accordingly? We're starting the night at my uncle's place in Maryland tomorrow and headed to Philly at 6, 3 hours from his spot. Nice, bro. That's perfect. That's a perfect setup. Yeah, 200 is pretty good. I thought 200 was good too. And that's why I kind of ran down there. By the way, the city was, dude, how many of you guys live in the city or have lived in the city in your life? How many of you guys? Because I know we have a lot of people who aren't in the city that listen to us. But how many people have been to Philly, who know Philly, who walk around Philly in times, and maybe grew up here, whatever? Anybody? I know we have a couple people, obviously. Flexen lived in this city all my life. You and me both, brother. Me when I was down bad. I'm Jason. You count. I'm talking. You're in the area. You know Philly. You know, a lot of people live in Maryland or California or Texas. That I'm talking about that. If you live here, born and raised, love it. Grew up in Willow Grove, close by where I grew up. Been in the city since 18. Love it, Luis. Know it like a book. You and me both, Flex. I know everything. I know every part. I know everywhere to go in this city, man. It's one of the things I take pride in. I could be anywhere in the city and look around and know where to go. Langhorne, PA. Love it. Love it. Hatboro, Horsham. Nice, man. Nice. Visit multiple times. All right, so currently live in the city. Nice, Howard. So if you've been to this city, all right, or you live in this city like many do, Flex, I'm with you. I do love this city, man. For all, it's got its faults, but it's really a great place. And by the way, we're in a great area. I mean, you know, there are some knocks on the area, but you got multiple major cities nearby. You got a bustling economy. You got the beach a couple hours away. I mean, we're in a good area of the world. The Northeast is a good area of the world. It is. It is. For all the knocks that people give on it, it's a good area of the world. But for those who, back to my point, for those who have lived here, who know the city, you know what it's like when the Eagles are winning. All right, I say it all the time. It's a different city when the Birds are like this, and we've only had 2 winnings this, but even just in the season when they're a good team, it's a different city. Right now, you go out, man. There's an excitement in the air. There's a feeling of pride, of joy. You know, people hold the door longer. People shake your hand. People say what's up. You know, I must have got 10 go Birds when you're outside the house. It's cool. It's cool. I love that about this city. And I love that about the great people of this city. You know, we're all a little bit assholes, all right? We're Philly people. Philly does get wild. Philly does get wild, no doubt. No Limit says they destroyed the city. Who? I mean, you could argue that the politics could be a little better in the city, but I don't want to get into that discussion. I don't know. There's no sense pissing people off. All right. Yes. Joe Whip, I'm so with you, man. I'm so with you. A completely different vibe. It is. All right. I missed Joe Whip. I wasn't there at 52 either because I was in Alabama. I was a freshman in Alabama. So I was not there for the parade. Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I wish, whatever. That's going to be, you're never going to control that. But I wish people didn't act like fucking children. You know, that's what makes me not want to go to the parade. I want to go to the parade, but if you know me, I like to control my domain. I like to be in control. All right. And you get into a city, you get into a setting where a lot of other people can dictate what happens to you. All right. There's a lot of people boozed up, drinking, dumb, not using their head, trying to cause trouble. I hate that. I hate that crap, man. All right. I'm a grown adult now. I don't need that. I don't need that. But there's a lot of great people too. So I don't let people like that try and take away from the rest of everybody else. You're right, Zeal. It is. There's a little bit of amateur hour, but I want to go and be a part of it. All right. I want to go and be a part of it. Bruce Banner's like, yeah, rip it down. How many banners are we getting? Kegs and eggs. Can't beat it. All right. Good stuff, everybody. Great show today. Yeah, Joe, that's why I want a group. If you have a good group, and you can roll together, you can insulate yourselves from the bullshit. All right. You can insulate yourselves from the bullshit. That's the goal. All right. If you want to meet up with the JAKIB group, we're not going to be a group of assholes. I hate assholes in public settings. I hate them. All right. Be respectful of the police. Be respectful of the local people who work to make it happen. Be respectful of the team. Be respectful of everything that's going on. I live here. I take pride in this city. I'm not one of the people that wants to tear the city down. All right. I know that people get a kick out of all that stuff. I'm not going that route. All right. Strength in numbers. I'm with you. All right. I'm with you. Now that the Eagles won it all, you growing that beard. I don't think I could grow this beard as good as you think, bro. All right. I was joking about that. All my testosterone has been redirected to other places. Where are we meeting up? Bombay, we're thinking City Hall. All right. We're thinking City Hall. If we can meet at City Hall, I think that would be a good spot, Bombay. Are you going to be down there, Bombay? Are you flying in? I thought you were in Florida, bro. I thought you were in Florida. Zander will disown the dumbasses. Kirsten, I got no time for bullshit. No time for bullshit. Callie Baby, my email is Zander@JAKIB Media. All right, that's actually a good idea. Anybody that's going down to the parade, you can shoot me an email because I'd love to coordinate and at least have an idea, of maybe who we could get a group with. Guys like Joe or Jason, like people who are definitely going to be, who want to roll in a group and don't have a group. I'd love to do that. I think that would be good. Bombay got his ticket yesterday. I love it, man. You're flying up. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Eduardo, I mean, the parade starts at 11, so I think you probably want to be down there before then, right? Before then. Does anybody have an idea on time? A lot of people are asking on time. I want to be malleable. I want to be malleable for the people. So what time do you guys think? I can be malleable if you guys can be. If you guys set a time, I'm good with that. But remember, the parade starts at 11. The speeches start at 2, they said. I guess I think they're doing it at the steps at the art museum would be my guess. Is that where they're doing the speeches? Art museum? I looked at the thing. Me and you both, Flex. I'm going to be down there. The only contingency right now I need to set somebody who can basically start the Cilio show at 2 because he's obviously not going to be here. He's in Cali. Once somebody starts that show, I'll be good to go. Sasha R says, take vacation and go to Aussie land. West Coast of Australia are mostly Eagles fans since their Australian football rules are called West Coast Eagles. I'd like to do that, Sasha. I'm not a big world traveler. I've only really been to Canada outside of the country. Only been to Canada. I've been to Canada many times, 4 or 5 times at least. For all the people that I joke about Canada with, it's the only country I've been to outside of the United States. I've been to a lot of states, though. Been to Cali, been to Utah, been to Wyoming, been to Colorado, been to obviously New Jersey, Maryland, both Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, Florida. Never been to Oklahoma. Where else have I been? All the West states I've been to, basically. Never been to Oregon, never been to Washington. Been to Cali, been to Utah, been to Wyoming, those are all fun out there. What time we thinking on time? RC3 says 8 a.m. I'm going to be down there early. I'm hopping on a 7 a.m. R5 train. Got it. So what are you going? Right down to Suburban Station probably, Joe? And then popping off there? That's a good move. I might be taking the train down too. I know Suburban Station well. I used to take that all the time. William says I'm leaving at 5 a.m. That's good. What time are you probably getting down there though, William? Never been to Idaho, never been to. Nevada, never been to. 8 or 9 would be good. I might be doing Birds 365 live. Maybe we can meet up. If we got some JAKIB Nation when I was live on Birds 365, that would be so cool. And then we could roll out of there right at 10 when I wrap. That would be dope. That would be dope. Yeah, I'm not sure what the R5 is. I think I take the R3, I want to say. I forget. I haven't taken a train in a couple of years. But I used to take it all the time when I was in high school. But, all right, right now the plan is this. All right, the time is tentative. Maybe we can work out a time tomorrow for when people will get down there. If we have a time, I'll set like a latest that we would leave from City Hall. So if you get to the city at 8, parade around, do some things, whatever, meet up with people you want to meet up with or whatever, and then maybe we can all get together at City Hall. I think that would be a great time. I think that would be a great thing to do. And then we can roll out of there at 10:15. I don't know where the other thing is once you meet up is what do you want your route to be? Do you wait at City Hall for the team to go by you and then you follow them down to the art museum? Do you go right to the art museum? Forgive me, I wasn't at 17 parade, so I really don't know what the setup is like too much. Abe, people will be for sure. News stations will be. I agree, Slayer. I think 10:30 is a good spot, a good time. It's Friday. The parade is Friday. I said get a time together tomorrow. Like we'll on the show tomorrow at this time tomorrow morning. We'll talk about a time. At this time tomorrow morning, we'll talk about a time. I'd love to meet as many people though as possible. I'll put a tweet out today too. All the local stations will have it, Abe. I think they should give me the feed, but they won't. Yeah, Philly says I sit up by the art museum. I think that would be the goal. Like if we went from City Hall to the art museum and then we kind of posted up there. I think that would be good. We got to roll early. You're right, Magro. I wonder if some people should go and maybe we can meet up with the people that go. Like maybe we'll have a setup. Some people can meet at the art museum. Maybe some people and some people can meet at City Hall. You know, if you go to the art museum and we meet you down there, it is going to be a mob though. It's tough to gauge on what you can do, you know, how much you're going to be able to move. It's going to be interesting. Should be a great day. There's nothing I want more than to meet all of you guys, or at least the people who are down there and want to meet. I'm sure some people are probably rolling in with like 50 friends. You know, they're probably like, F you, I don't care about meeting up with you. That's fine. But the people that want to meet, I'd love to meet. Oregon Ave, not a bad spot. Dave and Buster's. I don't know where the Dave and Buster's is in the city. I'm not a Dave and Buster's guy. Do I look like a Dave and Buster's guy to you? I'm not a game guy. The one in the city is, where is that one? Yeah, that's not the one on Columbus. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, city. I was going to say city has multiple of them. But there's only one closer to where the parade would be. You're not going to go over in Northeast, Plymouth meeting. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, by the ports. I see it. Nick says, Zander, the hat's fire, right? I got it yesterday at Mitchell and Ness. It's got the thing on the side. It's really nice. I know it says Super Bowl patch, but I just liked the black with the white logo. Delaware Ave. All right. We'll talk about it all tomorrow. I appreciate all you guys for being here. I'm looking forward to it. You know, Flex, I'll hit you up on text. I got you on text. Anybody who wants to try and talk about the parade, you can email me. All right. Zander at jakibmedia.com for those listening and not in the chat. Zander at JAKIB Media. It's ZANDER at JAKIB, JAKIB media.com. All right. So email me there and we'll try and work something out. All right. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks so much for the great show today. Thanks for sticking it out with me and Johnny Mac arguing about a whole lot of nothing. All right. Probably going to be a lot of that in the offseason. Appreciate all you guys. See you next time.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.